The Justice Minister Michael Masuta has told the ICC Assembly that the decision to quit the organization has not been taken lightly, as Russia also announces its withdrawal. The Rhodes Park gang rape and double murder court case resumes today at the High Court sitting in Palm Ridge. And in a bid to restore the South African heritage and pay homage to the fallen liberation struggle icons, the executive mayor of Ekurhuleni, Mzwandile Masina, will turn Chris Hani's Boksburg house into a museum. What a wonderful accolade that is. We're going to go there live in a short while, so you have to stay tuned to see what's happening there with Griselda Lewis. But first, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front. A very good morning to you.
Very good morning, Elvis. We're coming to the end of the year, and there's a whole lot of season enders in all sorts of sporting codes, and one of them is a big one. We've got a new world number one. It's Andy Murray, as everybody knows, and that's in tennis. And that's exactly why our top story in sports is going to be about this. This is what's coming up today. An irresistible Andy Murray bounces back to win a three-set epic against Kei Nishikori at ATP World Tour Finals. And in cricket, Australia's chairman of selectors, Rod Marsh, resigns in the wake of the resounding 2-0 series defeat to the Proteas. While FIFA's ethics watchdog has handed a one-year ban to Saud Al Mohanadi, a high-ranking Qatari and Asian soccer official. I'll bring you all this in more detail at 10:40. For now, Elvis has got the news for you.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this morning. The Justice Minister Michael Masuta has told the Assembly of State Parties of the ICC that South Africa's decision to withdraw is definitive, as the court has refused to listen to African concerns. The annual meeting of member states has been dominated by South Africa, Burundi and Gambia's decision to pull out.
According to statistics by the City of Johannesburg's Public Health Department, in 2014, deaths related to diabetes outranked those attributed to HIV as well as influenza or pneumonia. Globally, rising rates of urbanization are blamed for fueling increases in obesity and lack of physical exercise. It's estimated that over 4 million people are living with diabetes worldwide, but up to half of all people with diabetes globally remain undiagnosed. There are two types of diabetes. Type 1 is where the pancreas does not produce any insulin. This type of diabetes can develop at any age, but usually appear.
We apologize for that wrong clip. We're going to bring you that story a little bit later, because that's our theme for today. That's our focus for the day, which we focus and we ask you that question, of course. Why do you think there's an increase of people living with diabetes? Let's get back to our top story now. The ANC veteran and businessman Sipho Potyana says the majority of South African citizens are tired of corruption and abuse of state resources by government officials close to the president, Jacob Zuma. Potyana was speaking in Port Elizabeth in the Eastern Cape as part of the Save South Africa campaign. Now, he repeated the organization's call that President Zuma must resign.
Nangoza Jebe Community Hall, jam-packed by concerned residents, including religious leaders and civil society. Potyana says there is a lack of respect for state institutions due to corruption and nepotism. He lambasted President Zuma, saying he lost moral values and accused him of seeking to enrich himself further before his term expires in 2019.
Parliament is failing us, for it is supposed to be a mechanism that holds government accountable. Parliament has failed to hold the President accountable, both during the process of the Public Protector's report and after the Constitutional Court ruling. For whatever reason, whatever political explanation you can give, however justified it can be, when an opportunity arises for you to remove a thief who runs our country, you have no business to support him in Parliament and abuse our rights.
The ANC has hit back at Potyana, saying they will not allow him to bully the organization and its president. It says their focus is to improve the lives of the people rather than on a disgruntled individual.
Is acting as a puppet as a representative of the white monopoly capital of the big business in this country, which they are not willing to fight unemployment in this country. Now he's just a spokesperson of those interests.
Meanwhile, Pityana has also announced that there will be a national convention next year on the 27th of April. The convention will craft strategies of fighting racism and to rebuild the Rainbow Nation. Pityana has also revealed that they will picket outside Parliament during President Zuma's State of the Nation address to show their dissatisfaction with his leadership. Zolani Moya, SABC News, Port Elizabeth.
Well, now that we've sorted out all our gremlins, let's go back to our top story this morning. The Justice Minister, Michael Masuta, has told the Assembly of State Parties of the ICC that South Africa's decision to withdraw is definitive, as the court has refused to listen to African concerns. The annual meeting of member states has been dominated by South Africa, Burundi and the Gambia's decision to pull out.
South Africa's Justice Minister faces his international counterparts after the country announced its intention to pull out of the International Criminal Court, and he's clear there's no going back on the decision.
It's not about South Africa not willing to prosecute clearly guilty parties with regard to human rights violations. We have no intention whatsoever to going down that route. What we're saying is that, however, where international law accords people diplomatic immunity on our soils, that right we will protect.
South Africa won't apologise for inviting Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir to an African Union summit, even though he's under an ICC arrest warrant, and as a court member, South Africa should have detained him. Pretoria says the ICC should allow immunity for sitting presidents. Human rights activists say the whole point of the court is that it can hold the powerful to account, where their domestic justice systems do not.
That message needs to be sent out clearly, that the ICC is a court of last resort that guarantees international justice.
South Africa also says the court focuses disproportionately on African crimes. Defenders of the court, like the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, say the rules are being applied equally to all countries. Russia joined South Africa, Burundi and the Gambia in pulling away from the ICC on Wednesday, saying it won't ratify the Rome Statute. Human rights activists say the court must avoid the temptation to bend the rules of international justice to keep any one country on board. Elena Casas, SABC News in The Hague.
The case of two Mpumalanga men accused of forcing a Middelburg resident into a coffin in August has been postponed to the 25th of January next year. The two accused, Willem Oosthuizen and Theo Martins Jackson, have abandoned their bail application. They allegedly forced Victor Moshlatshwa into a coffin after being accused of a robbery at a nearby farm in Middelburg. The incident happened on August 17 at Korenfontein Farm in Middelburg. It was uploaded onto social media, angering many people, with various political parties demonstrating against anti-black racism. The accused were arrested on Monday and will stay in custody till their next appearance. They are facing charges of kidnapping and assault. Other court news now, the Rhodes Park gang rape and double murder resumes today. Now, yesterday, the CCTV footage was used to identify several suspects. 3 suspects are currently on trial at the High Court sitting in Palm Ridge. The court heard that one of the accused, Thabo Nkala, was cooperative during investigations. Now, he admitted to having drowned the 2 men, but denies raping the women. 4 of the accused, Nkala, Admo, Ndlovu, and Duduzi Matibela, have all pleaded not guilty. They face charges of robbery with aggravating circumstances, rape and murder. The case was postponed to today to allow for a Bangladeshi interpreter. With only 3 men before the court, police insist the remaining 4 will be apprehended and prosecuted soon. 5 men who went on a reign of terror in Zeerust in the northwest and nearby farms 3 years ago are to be sentenced today. 4 of the 5 have been in custody since 2013. One of them has already been sentenced to 387 years in jail for crimes committed in 2014. The 5 farm attackers were convicted in the Northwest High Court in Mahikeng yesterday. Moses Manono and his 4 accomplices were found guilty on several counts of murder and armed robbery, among other crimes. They allegedly terrorized farmers around Kreisrivier near Zeerust. They entered private plots and robbed their victims at gunpoint, killing 3 farmers. Now, Parliament will be lobbied to consider the possibility of extending the powers of the Auditor General. This comes as the AG revealed that some government departments and entities have wasted, listen to this, more than 46 billion rand on irregular spending.
Kwetu presented an overview of government's books for the past 3 years. There's some improvement in the audit done on the 169 national and provincial departments and the 315 public entities.
You will see that there has been quite a significant increase in the level of irregular expenditure. When we look at irregular expenditure, I think we want to assert the view that there are a number of instances that require the attention of leadership in the institution to take the next step. And the next step is to investigate the origins of this environment that creates irregular expenditure.
Kwetu cites poor management response, and despite investigations into these unhealthy practices, it's not being discouraged. Kwetu went as far as to say this behavior is sometimes condoned. Chair of the Standing Committee of the AG, Vincent Smith, says something must be done.
There is real frustration with the lack of consequences. A real frustration, and I think Parliament has to use whatever means it has to deal with this challenge.
Smith says the anti-corruption unit should attend all SCOPA hearings, and where individuals are identified as not complying, the matter must be referred to the Hawks. He says more effort has to be placed on ending what he termed financial malaise. Abra Barbia, SABC News, Parliament.
Well, now that's the question that we posed to you on our poll today, and let's see if we have our poll up to tell you exactly what we're asking. Should the Auditor General's office be given more powers to carry out its mandate? That's what we're asking. 67 votes this far, 23 hours left for you to vote. 93% of you are saying yes, the Auditor General's office needed to be given more powers to carry out its mandate. And 7% are saying no. If you look at the type of money that we waste on irregular spending, that certainly needs to be the case. 93% says yes. We're going to continue with this. You can keep on voting and let us know what do you think about that. Later on in the program, just after 10 o'clock, the Auditor General will be live in our Cape Town studios and we'll chat to him about the latest. Now, the house of the late liberation struggle icon, Chris Hani, will be officially turned into a museum today. It's a glorious day for the Hani family and South Africa. This follows a decision taken by the Ekurhuleni Council meeting in Germiston. Ekurhuleni Mayor Mzwandile Masina undertook the project as part of his first 100 days in office in terms of service delivery. The mayor says the museum is aimed at cementing social cohesion in the municipality. The council will officially assume ownership of the house as of today. The former SACP leader was assassinated as he drove into the driveway of his Dawn Park home in Boksburg on April the 10th in 1993 by Janus Wallush. Now here is our topic of the day, and we played you that clip a little bit earlier. About 2.3 million South Africans are living with diabetes. Now, diabetes is a condition that impacts how the body uses blood sugar or glucose. According to the latest statistics, South African figures, diabetes was the third underlying cause of natural deaths in 2014.
According to statistics by the City of Johannesburg's Public Health Department, in 2014, deaths related to diabetes outranked those attributed to HIV as well as influenza or pneumonia. Globally, rising rates of urbanization are blamed for fueling increases in obesity and lack of physical exercise. It's estimated that over 4 million people are living with diabetes worldwide. but up to half of all people with diabetes globally remain undiagnosed. There are two types of diabetes. Type 1 is where the pancreas does not produce any insulin. This type of diabetes can develop at any age, but usually appears before the age of 40, particularly in childhood. Type 2 diabetes is where the pancreas does not produce enough insulin or the body's cells do not react to insulin. Type 2 diabetes is largely caused by poor lifestyle.
Well, there you have it. Now, South Africa observed the month of November as Diabetes Month. Now, this year's focus on diabetes is to promote the importance of screening to ensure early diagnosis of type 2 diabetes and treatment to reduce the risk of serious complications. In studio, we are joined by the Department of Health Head of Non-Communicable Diseases, Professor Melvin Freeman, to give us an update on how the fight against diabetes is going. A very good morning to you, Prof, and welcome.
Morning. Thanks.
Now, we heard in the insert there that there's a definite increase. Is that a definitive yes, that we do see an increase, and what does the numbers look like?
It is a yes, and it does seem to be related to lifestyle changes, to urbanization, to industrialization, and so on, although we do get increasing incidence in rural areas as well. But just to give you some indication that diabetes in about 2013 was the 5th highest killer in South Africa. It's gone up to the 3rd. So we really can see a shift. And certainly in our clinics, we're seeing more and more people. And when we do studies, we're finding an increase.
Why are the numbers increasing? Is it only about lifestyle changes, or what else is there?
I would say it's primarily lifestyle changes. You know, people are eating different things. They're not exercising enough. There's huge obesity problems in South Africa, which are related to lifestyle. So I would definitely say that it can be prevented. They say that about 70% of type 2 diabetes can be prevented, and that's primarily through lifestyle change.
Talking about prevention, my grandmother used to say prevention is better than cure. What is the sort of prevention that one can look for or can implement to make sure that you do not get type 2 diabetes?
Well, the theme for this year's International Diabetes Day is Eyes on Diabetes. So it's really to try and focus us, but also to inform us that eyes are at risk when people get diabetes. But I haven't quite answered your question. There are two answers to that as well. The one is that we need to do what we call primary prevention. In other words, we need to prevent it before it even starts. But the other thing is that about half of the people who have diabetes don't actually know that they have diabetes. And that's why they call this the silent killer. And so what we are trying to do is focus people's attention on changing their lifestyle through eating, behavior, diet, exercising more. Other risk factors are also associated, like hypertension and so on. So we also need people to be looking at other risk factors like alcohol and smoking and so on. We treat NCDs or non-communicable diseases as a kind of a package and say you can prevent most of these. So the one side is the primary prevention. The second side is the secondary prevention or the early screening. And there, especially when a person gets to the age of about 40 or 45, they really should go and screen. But also even people younger than that, if there's a history of diabetes in the family, or other risk factors, or they really should go and test, and then they will know, and then we'll be able to treat people as early as possible.
Now, talk to me about your campaign, because you alluded to it a little bit earlier. What is the sort of campaign that can help just ordinary South Africans to prevent diabetes and to take care of themselves?
Well, diet is absolutely critical. I mean, I think South African diet is really not conducive to preventing diabetes. And, you know, we often get criticized, for example, with introducing the sugar tax as government and things like that. But really what we are trying to do through that is reduce people's intake of sugar-sweetened beverages so that we can prevent things like diabetes. I'm not saying that sugar is the direct cause of diabetes. What I'm saying is that sugar is a direct cause of obesity, and obesity is a direct cause of diabetes. So we really need people themselves to take this much more seriously. But we do understand it is difficult, especially in poor communities, because things that are healthier are quite often more expensive, and we do realize that. And so we need to tackle that as well. But at the same time, people need to become far more aware of what is good eating. And we also, as I say, need to encourage people to exercise more. It's very easy to just jump into the taxi or jump into the car, and you never actually do any walking, never mind any running or gymming.
Yes. You know? Now, that argument that people should eat correctly, which is a good one, because you need to have a stable diet. The argument is that people, prior to the 1970s, used to eat staple food all the time, and they never got any diabetes. What do you say to that? And number two, GMO foods, isn't that perhaps also part and parcel of the problem that we face in the country, that has maybe increased the risk of getting diabetes?
Well, I think in terms of traditional foods, it's also a matter of how much people eat. You know, we also need to encourage people to eat smaller portions. But I think it's the traditional foods together with the processed foods that are coming in. I think a purely traditional diet in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing if it's done at the right levels. Okay, but together with all of the processed foods which people are now eating and all the sweetened foods, that's what's really making the difference. And I think it's a cumulative effect. The GMOs, I can't really answer you on that. I don't have any evidence to suggest that that's a major driver of diabetes.
Now, the plan moving forward, Professor, into decreasing these numbers, because it is concerning, what is the plan?
Well, the plan is what we like to call a cascade. So the first thing we have to do is prevent people from getting diabetes. And that means that people have to take their lifestyles into their own hands. But they also mustn't be afraid of the Department of Health helping in some way through things like making sugar-sweetened beverages more expensive, because then it means that people will take in less of those unhealthy foods. We also need to look at how we can make more healthy foods like vegetables and fruit and other things more available to people, and that's why we are trying to work with other departments around this. So that's the first part of the cascade. The second part is to say, well, if you have diabetes, know about it.
Yes.
Okay. And so we are encouraging people to go for testing, especially if you are over 40, you must get a glucose test. Otherwise, as I said previously, there are risk factors, and if you have those risk factors, which they will assess at a clinic, they will give you a test. So go there and find out. Okay. The next thing we have to do is to make sure that those people who are on treatment are adhering to their treatment. It's no good for somebody to be put onto treatment, but they take it occasionally, or they don't come for their checkups, or so on. So that's the next part of the cascade. So we're saying primary prevention, secondary prevention, and then better adherence and better treatment and control.
So go to your nearest clinic or your hospital and you will be tested.
You will be assessed as to whether you need a blood test. Okay, I'm not saying that everybody must have a blood test. Probably everybody over 40 should have just a blood prick, and then your blood will be tested. But you should go to assess your risk.
Professor, I thank you so much for your time and joining us here. By the way, just before we go, is there a sense that we will get a cure for diabetes, or is it non-curable?
It's a long way away, I think, a cure. What we really do have is good control. And I think control can come about both through lifestyle and through medication if you do have diabetes. And so the issue at this point in time is to say to people, stick to what is being told that you need to do while we find the cure. And who knows?
That's right.
Let's hope.
There you go. That was the Department of Health Head of Non-Communicable Diseases, Professor Melvin Freeman, telling us all about it. And, of course, the things that you should do at home, not to overindulge in your food. Exercise. Do that regularly, daily basis. 20 minutes, that's all you need. Take a long walk, all right? Take care of yourself. Let's now take a look at what's happening on social media, what you have to say there. This one from Repeat Junction says that students gathered at the Wits Junction residence in Parktown to voice out their anger after management allegedly ignored rape victim complaints. Angry students chased the alleged rapist out of the campus. There you see that picture there. Now this tweet from Tumudi Treasy says an appeal to Wits management to take rape extremely serious and take safety measures to protect beloved sisters. Hashtag Rape Junction, and this other one, another one from Nombulelo says, the biggest problem with rape culture is the lack of consent. Why don't you ask? What about my right to say no? Hashtag Rape at Junction. This one, hashtag coffin case. The case of two men from Middelburg accused of assaulting a suspected robber and threatened to pour petrol over him and bury him alive was yesterday postponed to the 25th of January next year. The two accused, Willem Oosthuizen and Theo Martins Jackson, allegedly forced Victor Ratabile Mochwa into a coffin after being accused of a robbery at a nearby farm in Middelburg. This tweet now from Grant Wansby says, I wholeheartedly condemn the actions of these racists and hope that the law shows no mercy. Hashtag coffin assault, hashtag DA, hashtag EFF. And another one from Lorika Ngumalo says, there's something bizarre about this coffin assault. Where does the coffin come from? And why did they make a video of it? Well, there you have a question for the coffin people. Now, on to international front now. Hashtag racism. A West Virginia mayor resigned following a backlash after she posted a response to a racist comment about the First Lady Michelle Obama on Facebook. Pamela Ramsey Taylor, remember that name, made the post following Republican Donald Trump's election as president, saying, it will be refreshing to have a classy, beautiful, dignified First Lady in the White House. I'm tired of seeing her ape in heels. Can you believe it? 2016, that's the year that we are in, and that's the type of comment you get from an American. Well, let's move on to comments now. Yesterday we asked you the question, are you surprised in the surge of hate crimes in the US since hashtag Donald Trump's victory? Let's take a look at what you have to say. Let's take a look if it's up. It's not up yet. Seems like we haven't got it ready as yet. But those are some of the comments. In fact, there we go. Lawrence Mlungu says, I'm not surprised. When the winner is the champion in hate speech, Trump has managed to upset the world and please his voters. This one from Lachasa Batlamolo says, I'm not surprised at all. Trump used hate speech to win the elections, but Americans will regret ZB Makopong. So says Lachasa there. The Allowed One says, so, whose fault is it that Trump won? Protest against that culprit, whoever or whatever it is. The electoral system, maybe that's the culprit, says Allowed. Philip Lawrence says, I'm not surprised with the increase in hate crime. I think that Donald Trump will make things worse for the country. So says Philip Lawrence. And this one from Muhammad Tarai says, not at all. This was expected from Donald Trump, unfortunately. Those are the comments and the question that we posed to you yesterday. Are you surprised by the U.S. elections? And this is what you told us. Now, our picture of today comes from Louis Otandiweo. It's captioned, Kebo Dlamini, ankle cuffed in court, and coffin guys, they are not cuffed in court. Look at that. There you have the two pictures showing you Kebo Dlamini cuffed and the coffin guys. No, they're not cuffed in court. That's the picture of the day, comment of the day. Now, comments of the day comes from Max Taylor. Oosthuizen and Jackson do not represent white people. Society is full of sociopaths. That one there from Max Taylor. Let's now take a look at what's happening in the courts, and we are going to start off here in the Northwest. Let's start off there in the Northwest. A 43-year-old man of Mamohale Skral at Letlabile near Brits, who allegedly killed his 3-year-old stepdaughter, will apply for bail this morning at the Brits Magistrates Court in the Northwest. And moving to Limpopo, the bail application by a Limpopo medical doctor accused of killing his girlfriend is expected to start at the Toyondo Magistrates Court today. And then finally in Pretoria, a Tshwane University of Technology student and 2 former students are expected to appear at the Pretoria Specialized Commercial Crimes Court today after being arrested for allegedly demanding 100,000 rand from a security company owner. Now we'll keep you updated on all of these cases as they develop, so stay tuned. Let's take a quick break and we'll be back right after that.
Make your house ultra homey with Macro's big festive season savings on appliances like Samsung inverter air conditioners now $8,599 each, save 2,000 Rand. A Philips air fryer and hand blender combo, get both for only 1,999 and save 1,000 Rand. And how cool is the Hisense 340-litre frost-free fridge for 5,999, save 500 Rand. Share in these and other big festive savings for home, for business, for life. Only at Macro, big on life.
Diabetes South Africa is a non-profit organization that has been operating for over 40 years, educating and making South Africans aware about diabetes, and is also a member of the International Diabetes Federation. The organization is concerned with the explosion of diabetes worldwide. Developing countries like South Africa has not been spared from the disease. Now, recent data from the International Diabetes Federation, the IDF, estimates that 7% of South Africans between the ages of 21 and 79 years have diabetes. Now, currently, there's no cure for diabetes, but patients with diabetes need optimum medical care and education to not only improve their diabetic control, but also their overall state of health and quality of health. From Diabetes South Africa, the national manager, Margot Mkaminski, now joins us in our Cape Town studios to talk about their activities. A very good morning to you, Margot, and welcome.
Good morning.
Now, November month is Diabetes Month. What does it mean to Diabetes South Africa, and what type of activities do you have planned for this month?
Well, we've had a run walk in Cape Town. Last weekend we had one in East London and also one in Durban. And this is to raise awareness about diabetes and also to offer free screening of blood sugar, blood pressure, and we did free foot screening also because this is a risk factor with diabetes.
Do people know that even if you look at your foot, that you can actually maybe look at what the health situation of a person is?
You can look at the nerve damage that diabetes might cause, and at least if the person's aware, they can take precautions about their footwear and make sure that their feet are checked regularly because diabetes is one of the leading causes of amputations.
Mm-hmm. What about medical aids as well as insurance? Are they geared towards assisting patients living with diabetes? Have you found that that is the case?
I think medical aids pay a certain amount of the expenses towards diabetes, but not always the complications that arise from diabetes, for instance, neuropathy, nerve damage, that is not always recognized as being associated with diabetes, and yet it is one of the major complications. So I think there is a lot of work that the medical aids can do towards assisting people with diabetes.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've been in the business for 40 years as Diabetes South Africa. Tell us more about that and the challenges that you've encountered.
Well, the main challenge is funding, always. I mean, unfortunately, we have not been well funded, and this is still the case today. Even though the amount of people with diabetes has climbed substantially. I mean, in 2014, we find that diabetes is now number 2 killer in the Western Cape and number 3 in South Africa. And it swapped places with HIV and AIDS. Mm. So HIV and AIDS was 5th, and now it's now 5th, but diabetes was 5th, and now it's climbed to 2nd and 3rd. So it's increasing at such a rapid rate, and yet funding is not available to help people with diabetes.
No.
One of the main things that need to happen is to educate people. And it costs money to educate people, you know, to provide literature and counselling and assistance, and also to have campaigns of awareness to prevent diabetes.
Now, Margot, we had the Department of Health a little bit earlier in the program, and we asked them in terms of the spike in the diabetes cases. Your take on it, being in the business for 40 years, is it only lifestyle diseases that contribute to this increase?
Well, I've heard from research, international research that has been done, that there's 20 to 30 genes which contribute towards diabetes. So whilst lifestyle is one of the serious risk factors, the genetic medical history of a person plays a big role in developing diabetes. And also our environment, the food environment that we have available contributes towards diabetes, because sugar is in just about everything that we eat and drink. And also, carbohydrates are one of the cheapest food available, and yet carbohydrates, which sugar is one, fruit is another. We have so many carbohydrates available that are cheap that people tend to use the carbohydrates in excess, which leads to obesity and which leads to diabetes.
Mm-hmm. Is there hope for people living with diabetes in South Africa? And do you feel that there's perhaps a lingering ignorance about diabetes in South Africa?
There is a lingering ignorance. People get very confused between type 1 and type 2 diabetes. And there's a lot of myths in South Africa about diabetes and what causes it and why you have it. And also people don't know enough about managing it successfully in order to avoid the serious complications. I mean, we still have far too many people having amputations. Most people with diabetes die of heart attacks and strokes. So, there is a huge amount still to be done around education, and the medical fraternity do not have the time normally to do this, particularly in the state facilities. So, we need to partner with one another and get funding available so that we can do this effectively.
Now, Margot, I'm sure you heard about Dr. Gabriel Cousins, who calls for chronic diabetes degenerative syndrome programs. I'm not too sure if you're familiar with that. What are your assessment of his call?
Well, it is a degenerative disease. If your pancreas is still producing some insulin, but it's not working effectively, which is the case in most type 2 diabetes, then it will progress, and possibly you will need to go on to insulin injections eventually. I know that doctors are talking about being proactive and putting people on insulin sooner, but then there's the high cost of insulin, so that's not always a practical solution.
Mm-hmm. Now, the financial implications of diabetes, can you just roll that out for us briefly for a person living with diabetes?
Well, insulin is very expensive. If you have to be put onto insulin, you really need a medical aid. On the state health system, they do provide you with insulin, but not always enough strips available, because you need to test your blood sugar frequently in order to find out if what you're doing is bringing your blood sugars down. Effectively, what you're talking about is taking the place of an organ in your body which is malfunctioning or not working at all. So it's a complex condition, and people need to be taught how to do this. And we find that people are not taught properly how to manage their blood sugars along with the medication. Often they don't know when to take the medication, if they're on tablets. People develop nausea or side effects sometimes and stop taking the medication. So there needs to be a lot of education around what is required to manage diabetes successfully.
Margot, thank you so much for your time and joining us in our Cape Town studio.
Thank you.
That was Margot Kaminsky, the National Manager for Diabetes South Africa. Let's now take a look at the front pages from the newspapers from around the globe. And we start off in Europe. The Times report that employment levels in Britain are at an all-time high, fueled by the biggest surge of foreign-born workers since the expansion of the European Union. Moving to Florida, the Miami Herald says that Miami Beach has spent tens of millions of dollars raising streets in the low-lying Sunset Harbor neighborhood to prevent rising tides from flooding the area. And then finally in Israel, the Jerusalem Post reports that the Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman kicked up a political dust storm yesterday, suggesting that Israel reach understandings with the new Trump administration, whereby it will be allowed to build inside the settlement blocks while freezing construction in isolated settlements outside of them. Those are the newspapers. We'll take a look at the African papers a little bit later, but we'll take a break right now and we'll be back right after this. Stay tuned. We have another guest still on diabetes. Stay tuned. We're going to educate you today about diabetes. Well, there's a question that we posed to you today on diabetes. You've seen the increase. You've heard some of the role players today that we interviewed around the issue. There's a spike in people with diabetes, living with diabetes in this country. We're asking you, why is the number of people living with diabetes increasing in South Africa? On the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom as well as on the Facebook page. But let's see what you have to say. Do we have any live tweets coming up to see what you have to say to us? Let's see if we do have any. No? Yes? No? Well, doesn't seem like we have them ready, but we'll come back to them. But still on Diabetes Month. Dietitians or nutritional specialists always counsel and stress people to eat better. They support healthy eating habits and promote living a healthy lifestyle. Now, this is to prevent chronic illnesses like diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. Now, to talk to us about healthy living and avoiding diabetes, we are joined in studio by the clinical dietitian Ria Katsigas from Nutritional Solutions. That's the company.
Yes.
A very good morning to you and welcome.
Thank you, Elvis.
Now, as a dietitian, what is the best way to control type 2 diabetes?
The best way to control diabetes is there's two ways. One is to control your weight. Excessive intake of unhealthy food, high in sugars and fats, contribute to abdominal obesity. These fat cells release substances that makes our cells resistant to insulin. So you need to watch your waist. Secondly, the types of food as well as the quantities and times we eat affect our blood sugar levels. And whether you pre-diabetes or you have diabetes or just me and you, we need to make healthy choices with food because food impact on our blood sugar levels. And that play an important role to keep all the cells in our bodies healthy, but with specific reference to eyes, to our nervous system, our heart, and our kidneys.
Let's talk about food. As a dietitian, how does food contribute to diabetes, and which foods should people stay away from, and what are the foods that they should eat?
The carbohydrates, these are all foods from plants. It's all our fruit, vegetables, and grains affect the blood sugar levels most significantly. And we should avoid processed, nutrient-poor, refined carbohydrates.
Explain that.
These are white bread, brown bread, focaccia bread, ramazzinis, pizzas, prego rolls, shawarmas, wraps, bunny chows, burger and chips.
You're going to make a lot of people angry this morning.
It's foods made from white flour,
yes,
and foods that contain sugar. And your foods that's high in sugar is all the sweets and the chocolates. It's sugar-based cold drinks, fruit juices, and the milky drinks you get now, fat-free, milkshakes, yogi sips. They have significant amount of sugar. That need to be avoided to the expense of fresh fruit and vegetables and whole grains. And these are grains that hasn't been milled and processed and refined, like wild brown rice, like sampan beans with extra beans, like corn, as you get it from the land. You should eat the corn, and not necessarily the pap that's difficult because
that's made from the corn.
It's a staple food. It's made from corn, but the fiber is being removed. And therefore, it's not good in terms of controlling our blood sugar levels. So we should get unrefined maize on the shelves in our supermarket at a reduced price, because it's a staple food of the nation.
Why are we not getting it, do you think?
That's a good question. I think the two ways. There's two reasons for it. I think we need a collaborative effort to educate people, because it's not popular. So that's why they don't stock it. No one wants to buy it. So people need to be educated with regarding to the health of seed health bread, heavy breads versus white and brown bread. That people want to buy the product, and then the food industry need to come on board to say, listen, we need to provide it for the health of the nation at a good price, because they've looked at what really the main factor that make people decide what to buy is cost.
Now, you've mentioned a long list of food. It made very many people angry today, I would believe, and of course hungry, because they would say that's what we eat on a daily basis, from bunny chows to pizzas to shawarmas to...
Yes.
But what does a healthy plate look like?
A healthy plate looks like, so portion size is a sort of individual. It depends on the person's height, weight, age, activity level, weight status. And therefore, people with diabetes need to consult actually a dietitian to learn portion control and what's appropriate for them from a cultural point of view and from what they prefer. But if we look generally at a plate of food, let's say for lunch and for dinner, I brought it along, and the portion of starch, because your starches are the foods that affect the sugars most significantly, should be small, should be a quarter of your plate. It should be whole grain. Here I've got wild brown rice, and then a quarter of your plate should be protein. That can be liver, that can be lean beef, lean chicken, fish. It can be legumes and lentils and beans. And then half of the plate need to be vegetables. Because your vegetables are low in carbohydrates. They're very high in fiber. And they also have substances we call phytonutrients that keep our cells very healthy.
So what we got here is...
We've got here brown rice, we've got a small portion of chicken, and then we've got carrots, beetroot, and peas.
So that is what a good, healthy plate looks like.
That's what a good, healthy plate looks like.
Is that for lunch or for dinner?
Both. Some people will bring their leftover food from dinner to lunch and have it for a lunch, and then some people will have it for dinner. If you look at alternative lunch options, so you don't do leftover, it's a sandwich made from seed bread, heavy bread. It can be a salad where you add some quinoa, wild brown rice, lentils and beans, and fish to it. So like a tuna corn salad, a chickpea salad. That's beautiful lunches.
Does it help to know your blood type so that you can eat foods that goes with it?
In terms of the blood type, it's quite a popular diet out on the shelves in all shops. But if you look at the science behind it, there's no evidence that your blood type, whether it's B positive or A, play any role with regarding to controlling your blood sugar levels or your weight. So there's no scientific evidence. You don't have to worry about your blood type.
So now we got the correct plate, we eat the right food. What about exercise?
Exercise are vital, important. In terms of controlling weight, people often think, I go to gym, I should lose weight. 70% of weight control and blood sugar control is food, and then there is exercise, but it's very, very important because exercise do two things. It actually lower your blood sugar levels, and there are some studies that even show that independent of weight loss, it makes your cells more sensitive to insulin. So on your cells are receptors, insulin locked to them, or they signal to them, and that signaling improves dramatically when you exercise.
I asked my previous...
Also good for your mood and your emotions and your stress. You don't eat so much because you're less stressed and you feel happier.
Yes, I asked Diabetes South Africa the very same question I'm posing to you. Is diabetes reversible, especially after taking into account the American Dr. Gabriel Cousins that claimed that his diabetes recovery program could render insulin and related medicines unnecessary within 4 days as the blood sugar drops to normal levels. Is that even possible?
It is possible. If you look at obese people who go for bariatric surgery, and we see it's a dramatic loss in weight, and they've actually done numerous studies across the world, and they've actually done a study now at the Center for Diabetes and Endocrinology in Houghton. A colleague of mine did it. And they took people who was overweight, put them on an 800-calorie diet. It's a low-calorie diet. Often it can be low carbohydrate, but according to my colleague, it was more the low calories that caused a dramatic drop in weight. So what happened now, as I said, these abdominal fat cells make your cells resistant. So as you lose weight, your cells become more sensitive to insulin, and the insulin work properly in your body. And they found a dramatic improvement in their blood sugar levels. So it works. Now, we don't know on the long term if, and often people go off their medication. I don't think there's data, I'm not aware of it, I need to go and read up. Data long term, after 1 year, after 2 years, if these individuals are still not using any medication. So that's another question, because what is a big factor in terms of whether you can reverse the diabetes and you never have it, or it can come back, is how much of the beta cells in the pancreas has been destroyed and failed and dead. How much beta cell function are remaining. And secondly, if those individuals, let's say, lose from 150 Ks to 100 Ks, you need to keep it there. So you need to practice these healthy eating lifestyles, because low-calorie diet on the long term is difficult to sustain.
Ria, I thank you so much for your time and joining us here in studio.
Thank you.
That was the clinical dietitian Ria Katsikas from Nutritional Solutions. Well, discussing eating habits, healthy habits, that is. Well, let's take a look at some of your comments that's coming through on the Twitter handle. This one, students gathered at Wits Junction residence in Parktown to voice out their concern and anger after management allegedly ignored the rape victim complaints. Let's take a look at this one from Linda that says, there's the law and then there is justice. This one coming from Didi says, how are you as the people who are stripped or supposed to protect young women at your place of learning, standing by and doing nothing? This one from Linda Mtambo says, if the judicial system and police wasn't so abusive towards rape victims, reporting a rape wouldn't be so traumatizing. Hashtag rape at the junction. Kenny Wilson says, it's funny how there's a rapist still on Wits campus, yet people who are fighting for free education are being locked up. So says Kenny Wilson. Moaning Myrtle says, I hope that video of hashtag rape at junction gives most people a glimpse of why women are always protective or on the defense of their spaces. So says Moaning Myrtle. Now, these are some of the comments coming through. Up next, we're going to be back just after 10 o'clock with your news, as well as a crossing to Griselda to find out what's happening there in Boksburg. And, of course, we have the Auditor General in studio, in our Cape Town studios. Up next, your weather forecast.
Thank you very much. You're watching Newsroom Weather. Let's see what is happening on the African continent. We've got just some clusters of thunderstorms, especially in the central parts. This morning we did have some thunderstorms in the southern parts of Botswana, moving towards Limpopo. later on in the day. But over the central parts, just got a cluster of storms over the central parts, and we're expecting most of the rain in the eastern parts of the coastline of Africa. We're looking at temperatures. We've got 24 for places like Springbok, Sutherland at 22. We're seeing going north, it's quite warm. Pretoria 33, Polokwane peaking at 30 degrees Celsius for today. Some showers are expected for places like Serowe and Harare, while Bulawayo we're only expecting partly cloudy conditions with 37 as a maximum. Beitbridge is scorching at 43 with clear skies for today, and Maputo at only 38. Partly cloudy conditions are expected. Looking further north, we're still expecting some rainy weather in places like Kigali and Nairobi, and with Dar es Salaam as well. Temperatures in the 20s. It's a bit cool in places like Kigali, but very hot in Kilimanjaro, Mombasa, and Dar es Salaam. Looking at the showers also expected in Nairobi for today. And over the northern parts, we're still seeing clear skies in places, especially like Sana'a, Masava, and Khartoum, with Addis Ababa, while the partly cloudy conditions are expected in Djibouti. 37 for Juba, very hot with partly cloudy conditions for this Thursday afternoon. And over the desert, we're seeing mainly just dry conditions over the interior, very dry, very hot conditions. 31 for Ariyat, and looking at Mecca reaching a high of 33. But over the northern parts, it's cooling down to 18 in Damascus. Some light showers are expected in Tehran with a high of 23. Dubai only reaching a high of 33. Very hot conditions are expected in Dubai today. And looking at the northern parts of the northern coastline, only expecting cool conditions. Rabat at 21, partly cloudy conditions all the way towards the eastern parts at 19 in Algiers, Las Palmas at 23. Looking at Benghazi, 24 with Tripoli, cloudy conditions are expected. Over the interior, although we're expecting just mainly dry conditions over the interior with clear skies. Look at Niamey reaching a high of 39, 37 for places like Bamako, and some light showers are expected in places looking at Dakar, and all the way along the southern coastline towards Monrovia and Abidjan, expecting still some showers. Even Lagos still expecting some showers with a high of 32. In Jamaica, reaching a high of 39, quite hot. And then looking at last but not least, we've got still some heavy rain expected in places like Libreville, Bangui, and southern parts with Brazzaville, Kinshasa, and Luanda expecting some quite heavy rainfalls, while Yaoundé only expecting isolated showers with a high of 28. Mainly in the 20s, that's what we have for your highs today. And this is all we have for your weather for today. Remember to tweet us, email us, call us, anything, just get a hold of us. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News.
Information-hungry viewers stay with SABC News, as issues on the West are different from issues on the East or here in Johannesburg. So it is not surprising that people who follow the news know that there are two things for sure: that anything can happen, and SABC News will tell you when it does. Because we keep the nation fully informed. We are SABC News.
Africa. It's the second hour here on Newsroom. I'm Elvis Preslin.
I'm Kendall Makamate.
We'll be with you until 12 o'clock. We have a focus today, Kendall, and that's on diabetes.
Yep.
Did you know that about 2.3 million to be exact, of South Africans are living with diabetes? So we're asking that question.
Yeah, no, it's really difficult to be hearing those figures about South Africans. But that question really is, why is the number of people living with diabetes increasing in South Africa?
That's the question we pose to you. You can let us know on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom as well as on our Facebook page. But we're also conducting a poll, Kendall, on Parliament that will be lobbied to consider extending the powers of the Auditor General. This, as government departments and entities have wasted more than 46 billion rand. Hey? Fruitless expenditure.
Fruitless expenditure. And we're asking, should the Auditor General's office be given more powers to carry out its mandate? That's the question.
Let's see if we have that poll up here again, eh? Let's see if we can have that poll up here for a second. Let's see if it's 1, 2, 3. Let's see if the poll is there, and let's see where we stand with the poll right now. There we go. Not on the big screen, but there it is on your screen right now. Should the Auditor General office be given more powers to carry out its mandate? There you go. 93% of you are saying yes, and 7% of you are saying no.
87 votes in already, and a lot of people feeling that, you know, we need some teeth in the Auditor General's office.
Yep. Give the Auditor General some teeth so he can bite some people that's spending our money. Right now, let's take a look at your news headlines. The Justice Minister, Michael Masuta, has told the ICC Assembly that the decision to quit the organization has not been taken lightly, as Russia also announces its withdrawal. The Rhodes Park gang rape and double murder court case resumes today at the High Court sitting in Palm Ridge. And in a bid to restore the South African heritage and pay homage to the fallen liberation struggle icons, the executive mayor of Ekurhuleni, Mzwandile Masina, will turn Chris Hani's Boksburg house into a museum. Now, we'll go there shortly to find out from Griselda Lewis what is happening there. But first, let's find out from Kendall what's happening on the sports front. Very good morning once again.
Elvis, once again, it's quite a lot happening on the sporting front in terms of tennis. We're reaching the end of the year, and it's now finals time. And Andy Murray is doing what a world #1 should be doing, is winning his matches. And this is what's coming up in sports in a little later at about 10:40. And irresistible Andy Murray bounces back to win a 3-set epic against Kei Nishikori at the ATP World Tour Finals. Chapman Murray. And in cricket, Australia's chairman of selectors, Rod Marsh, resigns in the wake of a resounding 2-0 series defeat to the Proteas. All this as FIFA's ethics watchdog has handed a 1-year ban to Saud Al-Mohanadi, a high-ranking Qatari and Asian soccer official. More detail, 10:40. Stick around. Elvis has got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this hour. The Justice Minister, Michael Masuta, has told the Assembly of State Parties of the ICC that South Africa's decision to withdraw is definitive, as the court has refused to listen to African concerns. The annual meeting of member states has been dominated by South Africa, Burundi and Gambia's decision to pull out.
South Africa's Justice Minister faces his international counterparts after the country announced its intention to pull out of the International Criminal Court, and he's clear there's no going back on the decision.
It's not about South Africa not willing to prosecute clearly guilty parties with regard to human rights violations. We have no intention whatsoever to going down that route. What we're saying is that, however, where international law accords people diplomatic immunity on our soils, that right we will protect.
South Africa won't apologise for inviting Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir to an African Union summit, even though he's under an ICC arrest warrant, and as a court member, South Africa should have detained him. Pretoria says the ICC should allow immunity for sitting presidents. Human rights activists say the whole point of the court is that it can hold the powerful to account, where their domestic justice systems do not.
That message needs to be sent out clearly, that the ICC is a court of last resort that guarantees international justice.
South Africa also says the court focuses disproportionately on African crimes. Defenders of the court, like the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, say the rules are being applied equally to all countries. Russia joined South Africa, Burundi and the Gambia in pulling away from the ICC on Wednesday, saying it won't ratify the Rome Statute. Human rights activists say the court must avoid the temptation to bend the rules of international justice to keep any one country on board. Elena Casas, SABC News in The Hague.
Court cases at home. The Rhodes Park gang rape and double murder resumes today. Yesterday, CCTV footage was used to identify several suspects. 3 suspects are currently on trial at the High Court sitting in Palm Ridge. The court heard that one of the accused, Thabo Nkala, was cooperative during investigations. He admitted to having drowned the 2 men but denies raping the women. 4 of the accused, Nkala, Admo, Ndlovu and Mduduzi Matibela, have all pleaded not guilty. They face charges of robbery with aggravating circumstances, rape and murder. The case was postponed to today to allow for a Bangladeshi interpreter. Now, with only 3 men before the court, police insist the remaining 4 will be apprehended and prosecuted soon. The case of 2 Mpumalanga men accused of forcing a Middelburg resident into a coffin in August has been postponed to the 25th of January next year. The 2 accused, Willem Oosthuizen and Theo Martins Jackson, have abandoned their bail application. They allegedly forced Victor Mochtwa into a coffin after being accused of a robbery at a nearby farm in Middelburg. The incident happened on August the 17th at Korenfontein Farm in Middelburg. It was uploaded onto social media, angering many people, with various political parties demonstrating against anti-black racism. The accused were arrested on Monday and will stay in custody till their next appearance. They are facing charges of kidnapping and assault. Now, the house of the late liberation struggle icon Chris Hani will be officially turned into a museum today. This follows a decision taken by the Ekurhuleni Council meeting in Germiston. Ekurhuleni Mayor Mzwandile Masina undertook the project as part of his first 100 days in office in terms of service delivery. The mayor says the museum is aimed at cementing social cohesion in the municipality. The council will officially assume ownership of the house as of today. The former SACP leader was assassinated as he drove into his driveway of his Dawn Park home in Boksburg on April the 10th, 1993 by Janusz Walosz. Now, for more on the story, as promised, we now cross live to our SABC reporter Griselda Lewis, who's there. Very good morning to you, Griselda, and welcome. Please keep us up to speed with what is happening there today.
Well, a very good morning to you, Elvis. Truly a momentous and historic occasion here at Dawn Park in Boksburg, where 23 years after the assassination of the SACP leader Chris Hani, his home is officially now being turned into a museum to try and preserve the legacy of this apartheid struggle stalwart. And as you can see here next to me, this is just some of the temporary portraits that have been put up here. This is just the official handing over of the keys today, as you indicated that the Ekurhuleni Metro has officially going to take over the keys today. They've bought this house, and in it now is just some temporary portraits of various rallies where Chris Hani had been addressing some people prior to 1993, his assassination. And here you can see really the hallmarks of someone who was very instrumental in the fight against apartheid in this country. And you would remember, of course, as we just take you through this house just a little bit, it was quite, Chris Hani's assassination was part of a ploy by the far right in South Africa at the time to derail negotiations to end apartheid. And, historically, the assassination itself is seen, as part of a ploy by the apartheid government. It was essentially a turning point in South Africa. Serious tensions followed the assassination, and there were even fears at the time that the country would erupt in violence. If you look there, just one of the portraits that is in one of the rooms here, you see Chris Hani's widow, Mamti Mpohani, standing there near the SACP leader, Blade Nzimande, as well as, the former General Secretary of COSATU, Zwelinzima Vavi, as well as Tokyo Sekgwale. Now, these pictures were actually taken in 2008 at the wreath-laying ceremony to commemorate the 15 years since the passing of Chris Hani. So, very educational tool, certainly, once this museum does open up to the public, that really get a rich history of Chris Hani's involvement in the fight for democracy in this country. We're going to move now to the main bedroom, where you would see here Mam Dimpo Hani would just join us very shortly as well. Mam Dimpo, good to find you here while we're broadcasting this morning, a truly momentous occasion for you as a family, 23 years after your husband was assassinated.
Morning, Ma, and morning to the listeners. I'm overwhelmed with what Ekhululeni municipality has done. When they informed me that they bought the property and they're going to do a museum, I didn't know what to expect. But I decided, let me not interfere, let me see what they've come up with. I must say, when I moved in, this is just for show today for the launching, but it's a beautiful surprise. I'm so honored, I'm overwhelmed, and I want to say to the mayor, to the councillors, and to people of Ekhululeni, I thank you so much that 23 years later, with the mayor having been in the office for 100 days, they've been able to come up with this. I congratulate the ANC.
Mama, this is quite significant. I want to take a look at this particular mirror. This is a message. Is this message from you? I miss my husband.
It came from people who are responsible for the project. However, every time I talk to anybody who wants to listen to me, I always tell them I miss my husband. I'm also telling you I miss him a lot. Yes.
We're standing in the master bedroom of this, what was your home. This must certainly bring back memories for you. This is the first time that you're seeing this exhibition. As you walk into the master bedroom and you see all the memories and the portraits that even speak to the actual day when this tragedy took place in South Africa, what goes through your mind and your heart?
It is very interesting that you're asking this question. As I moved to our master bedroom, the thing that came to my mind was when Masisulu had put my truss on the floor, I had to sit on the floor. That's the first thing that came to my mind. Now, this is after Chris was assassinated. But after some few minutes just moving around this bedroom, I remembered the good moments that we have, the discussions that we have. Remember, your partner confides in you. Yes. Women know a lot. They shouldn't be undermined. So I remembered all those beautiful memories. He was a loving husband, and I love him. I still love him.
Mama, let's just walk towards this picture here. And this was taken, if my memory serves me correct, in 2008 at the 15th commemoration of the passing of your husband. It certainly doesn't get any easier. We're talking 23 years later. But of course now today, this is a celebration of that legacy and ensuring that young people or whoever walks through these doors, through this museum, will know about this great man.
Yes. I love my husband, and at the time they killed him, I thought, okay, we are back in South Africa, there are talks going on, so he'll always be around. But his assassination literally hit me so hard. Every time I talk about his death, it is as though it happened yesterday. It still hurts to date. But with God's grace and South African prayers, I'm getting stronger, a little bit stronger. Days are not the same. There are days when I just feel so sad, but there are days when I decide, okay, I'm going to celebrate his life, remember his jokes. He was a very loving guy, very mischievous. So when I want to laugh, I remember him. And what is strange, only this morning I went to my daughter's house, Lindiwe, and we were talking about her father and the way he used to, their discussions were very interesting. I'll give you one example. Yes. My husband had a small transistor radio which was on 24/7. And apparently he was away, so Lindiwe, I can't remember whether it's Lindiwe or my late Nomakwesi, took out the batteries for their Walkman. Yeah. So he comes back, he wants to listen to the radio. It's not on. He checks, there are no batteries. He walks into the family room, very upset. He says, who took the batteries from my radio? So Kwesi looks up and says, I did, Daddy. He says, you shouldn't do that. He says, no, you said people shall share in the welfare of the country, so we are sharing.
Those are certainly the fantastic stories, I guess, that you're hoping.
Human stories.
Absolutely. Yes. That many of those who walk through this museum, when it does officially open to the public, are those the stories that you'd perhaps want the curators to walk through these pictures and perhaps tell some of those stories about, we all know about the political struggle and the involvement of the late Ntate Chris Hani in the struggle for freedom in this country, but the human aspect of it, about one who would tell his children not to take the batteries out of the radio.
Yes. I believe in what you are saying. I've always said most of the things written about our leaders, our politicians, is basically about their political work. But I think it's high time we also came with the angle of human stories. Who was Chris? Not Chris the politician, but Chris the uncle, the husband, the father, the comrade. I think there are so many stories right through our country which are beautiful stories, human stories. I think you are correct, it's a good angle.
Absolutely.
Because I think the political one is overdone.
But certainly not enough told.
No, let me tell you, whatever has, I think you have seen lots of books written about...
Let's just take a walk through here as we chat.
I think you have seen lots of books written about my husband. Those are not true stories of my husband. And these books, you can see that somebody took speeches of our leaders and put them together in a book. Nobody was never interviewed. So these people who have written books about my husband, people should not buy them because they are not true stories. A book is being written about the true story of Chris's political life, not by foreigners, but by comrades who lived with him, who left South Africa with him, who know the truth. The books on the market, I advise South Africans, don't read them. It's lots of rubbish.
Ma, if we just take a look at one of just the things where I've never wanted to spare myself because I feel there are people who are no longer around and died for the struggle. What right do I have to hold back, to rest, to preserve my health, to time with my family when there are other people who are no longer alive? And that's exactly what your husband stood for.
Yes. Yes, he believed in this. He was hardly at home. Remember, after the ANC gets unbent now, they have to move all over South Africa to say to our people, we are back. This is what we want to do for you. We'll be going for elections. So they had to meet different people in the whole country. So it is correct. He was hardly here. He was a visitor in my house. Yes.
But certainly for, I guess...
for a good cause.
Absolutely. Mamti Mpohani, thank you very much for your time, and certainly congratulations on this milestone that's certainly been achieved by the Ekurhuleni municipality as well as Metro, where now officially the keys of this house will be handed over to the Ekurhuleni Metro. Of course, you'd know this house had been taken occupation of by someone else, and now certainly to have those keys back in the hands of the Ekurhuleni municipality, they will now decide exactly when they will officially open this museum to the general public. And certainly a lot of people and neighbors around this area would certainly be grateful, I guess, for the fact that you'll also get many people who will come through this area. It'll perhaps create a lot of tourist attraction as well, so people are able to learn about the life and times of this great struggle stalwart. We'll certainly hear a lot about that as well. We'll also bring you live coverage of the event itself, where Mamti Mpohani, we understand, will also address many of the dignitaries who will be participating in this historic event. But the many pictures that we're seeing here, just before we let you go, the many pictures here of the life and times of this struggle stalwart Chris Hani, and certainly many who will walk through these doors will get to learn about the indelible contribution that he has made towards, alongside many other, as they would put it, comrades in the struggle for freedom in South Africa. We'll certainly come back to you once the program gets underway.
Beautiful pictures there and a beautiful interview. Chris Hani, he'll be remembered in Boksburg. Moving on now, Parliament will be lobbied to consider the possibility of extending the powers of the Auditor General. Now, this comes as the AG revealed that some government departments and entities have wasted more than 46 billion rand on irregular spending. Joining us now from our Cape Town studios is the Auditor General, Kimi Makwetu. A very good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Hi, morning, Elvis.
Now, let's take a look at what happened yesterday. Increase in irregular expenditure. Is that a worrying trend and a worrying figure? And who are the main culprits?
Well, the nature of expenditure, as it were, is indeed a worry when it grows, because it's a revelation of the negative circumstances under which the supply chain management is happening. And the major contributors to this is a couple of departments of health, of education, of public works in certain provinces, as well as the bigger contributor being the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa.
Qualify that increase for us in percentages. Is it, some reports are suggesting it's more than 80% from the previous year?
If you look at last year's number, Elvis, it was sitting at about 32 billion, almost. And so if you add that to another 14 to the 32, it's more or less around that number, if you like, in terms of the quantum of that irregular expenditure. So it's quite a significant growth year on year. And I guess if you look at what grows it, it's one major entity that has got huge commitments of capital assets that they are purchasing. And I think with the background and the history that we've picked up from previous reports in terms of the culture, in terms of the environment in which supply chain happens in PRASA, it is indeed a coming to light of that which in the past we were not able to get our fingers to.
Will there be consequences for people like PRASA? Because the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, SCOPA, says that the situation will not change until there are consequences for it.
Well, it reinforces the view that we have expressed over time, that if you've got certain expectations where compliance with certain rules is expected, and you've got people who are repeating offenders in that context, but while they are repeating the offense, there is no real punitive step that is taken to discourage them from continuing on that path. The reality is that when those consequences are not there, when those consequences are not biting hard enough, there is no incentive for people to detour towards the right path. So I think there is substance to the statement that was made by SCOPA to say that that's the next step that needs to be tightened in the oversight value chain.
Now, there are suggestions that ascertain if there's any legislative amendments that could be made to give your office more teeth to do your work. Do you think that that might, in a way, help the situation?
Well, I guess if you look at that as well as the broader context of strengthening institutions, you know, when you set up institutions initially, you normally do it with a view to trying to use persuasion most of the time to get to the ultimate result. But I think there is a benefit of experience over more than 10 or so years of the same set of circumstances obtaining in the environments in which we audit. And I think in the context of a progressive development of institutions as well as strengthening them as they grow, naturally some people arrive at a conclusion like that where they want to review the powers because there may well be something in the additional powers that will turn the situation around. So I think it's a development in the right direction. The only difference really for now for us is that we have not yet dirtied our hands to go into the detail of what that could entail based on what we experience as well as what we think will make the change. So I think certainly a welcome development, particularly that it get announced by those that are charged with oversight in Parliament.
Auditor General, I thank you so much for your time and joining us at such short notice. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thanks very much, Elvis.
That is Kimi Makwetu, the Auditor General, on the latest report. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. But before we go there, remember that we're asking you that question on our poll. We'd like to find out from you, do you think that the Auditor General needs more teeth in order to do his job? I'd like to find out, maybe if it is ready, if we can have that poll just quickly and see if it's up there and to see where do we stand with our poll. Well, not yet. It doesn't seem ready, but we'll bring you up to speed with it because that was the interview there. We'll take a break. We'll be right back after that.
A presumed U.S. drone strike in the south of the country has killed 3 al-Qaeda suspects.
Death toll in Yemen's 18-month-old civil war now stands at about 10,000.
People get killed or die and are actually buried before they're recorded. And we don't have a way of recording that, but we know the numbers are much higher.
Water restrictions are to be imposed on villages in and around the Nkomazi municipality.
Pumps can't pump the water because there's no water in a river. And if the water is coming back, then it's full of mud.
Those who can pray and those who can do any miracle to make sure that we've got enough rain, give it a try.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom. Now, we continue with our theme for today, which is about diabetes. There is no cure for diabetes, but it can be managed. That's good news for everybody out there. It can be managed. Diabetes South Africa believes that people living with the disease must be supported and encouraged. But what are the implications of living with diabetes? We're now joined in studio by a lady who actually is doing that, living with it, Mpulukeng Mudau, who's got type 1 diabetes. Good morning and thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me, Kendall.
Mpulukeng, the first question that I've got for you is to help our viewers understand what the implications of living with diabetes are.
Well, diabetes is a lifestyle disease. It's known to be a lifestyle disease. So basically, when you find out you are diabetic, there's a lot of change that one needs to go through. Your lifestyle needs to change, how you eat, exercising more often. And if it's not controlled, that's where the danger comes in. And that is mostly what a lot of South Africa are suffering from, because a lot of people are living, they don't know that they're diabetic until it gets to that crucial point where you have to have your legs amputated or your organs and yeah.
Talking of which, I mean, you're fairly young, and we're talking about the amputations. The amputees, most of them are fairly older, middle-aged, and so on and so forth. You're young. When did you get first diagnosed?
I was first diagnosed when I was pregnant with my son in 2009, gestational diabetes. A lot of pregnant women go through it, but what we know is that they tend to be healed after giving birth, of course, with the long term of having that risk of being diabetic in the long run. Unfortunately for me, I'm one of those people that did not, I continued to have diabetes afterwards. Yeah.
Wow. And that must have been quite tough for you to find out.
Definitely.
Because I do know that, yes, there is such as, I think it's gestational diabetes, and then it goes away after the pregnancy. And for you, it must have been quite tough to deal with that. Tell us a little bit about how that felt.
It was. I just walked in at my gynae's rooms for a regular checkup, and walking out telling me that, you know what, there's something wrong. I want to do blood tests. 7 o'clock in the evening, I get a call. People can come back to the hospital. You need to come to the hospital now. I'm like, okay, I'll come tomorrow. Negotiating there. And when I got in, I was hospitalized. They told me that your sugar levels are extremely high for somebody who had not eaten at that time. You know, and right there, my life just changed. It just changed because I was pregnant, and you know, women, when you're pregnant, you want to eat this, you want to eat that, all in the name of eating for 2 people and cravings. And all of a sudden, I could not eat all of those things. I had to watch everything I ate.
Oh, that must have been quite tough on you in that time, yeah. Do you understand fully the type of diabetes you've got, and how is it that you've actually got coping? You sound like the kind of person who's actually done all the research post that fateful meeting and that morning. But I mean, how do you cope with what you know now?
One day at a time, and I learn every day. And I think with the support of my family, and I'm a very prayerful person. With that as well, my faith keeps me intact. And one of the things that I always keep in mind is my kids. Yes. I've got a daughter and a son. Mm-hmm. And every time I want to just, let loose, I keep thinking about my kids. Who's going to take care of my kids? Oh. So for me, it is very important for me to stay healthy, to eat according to the diet that has been given to me, and to exercise regularly.
Well, that's very interesting. Now, please, just let's get an understanding. Your son and your daughter, which was the first child?
It's my son.
All right. So already by the time you got to your second child, you'd already been diagnosed with it, and obviously, I can imagine the way you managed your pregnancy was very different. The second pregnancy. The
second pregnancy was different because with my son, the difference was that I got it at a later stage of the pregnancy. With my daughter, it was right at the beginning. So obviously, my worry mostly was the impact of my insulin to her, which it did have a slight effect to her because she was a little bit overweight at birth. But yeah.
Okay, and with that said, I mean, have they contracted diabetes? Are they diabetic free? Your children?
You can imagine me as a diabetic mother now. No sweets for them. In the lunchbox, I pack your broccolis and your health food. It's like, yeah. But they haven't.
And they grew up drinking water and eating all their veggies.
Definitely. My son will tell you that, no, I'm not allowed to have that.
No, that's good. I think there's a positive spin-off of that. Now, tell us in terms of finances and how it's impacted on your financial situation, as well as how medical aids and insurance companies, how they interact with you as a client.
My medical aid is fairly good. I could say fairly good because most cases, actually, every month I have to pay a levy of about 700 rands for my medication.
Wow.
With that, they will encourage you to go to gym, which we do, eating healthy, which I have a garden. My husband we have a garden in our yard where we plant our spinach and your lettuce, and most of the time that's where we get our crops. So it helps. And there's this, I would say, stigma that healthy food is expensive.
Yes.
But you know what? This is how everybody's supposed to live.
You can grow it yourself.
And if you all lived like this, we would have diabetes under control.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
In closing, please give us a little bit of advice on how people that are struggling with coming to terms, one, with maybe that first diagnosis, as well as then living with it afterwards. What 2 or 3 salient things would you want them to know?
The most important thing for me is the approach. Fine, you know that you are diabetic. Now it's how you're going to handle it, how you're going to handle and deal with it. Taking it one day at a time. Just know that you're not alone. There are a lot of support groups out there that you can reach out to, a lot of people. I mean, I, for one, met Michael at CDE, and he's one of those people that have given me a lot of advice, and I didn't even have to pay for it. People should not be focusing on the fact that it's expensive. I'm going to have to pay for a dietitian. No. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be like that. Reach out to people that are there to help you out and find out ways in which you can cope with the disease. At the end of the day, it's a lifestyle. It's just a matter of changing the way you live on a daily basis.
Mpuluke Modao, thank you so much for coming through and sharing your experiences with us. We certainly hope that we've all learned from this conversation, especially if you thought it was a death sentence or a lifestyle sentence.
I did.
And look at you. You've come out stronger. Your children are eating veggies and drinking water, and you're growing your own stuff. So well done to you, lady, and thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
There you have it, Mpuluke Modao, who's living with type 1 diabetes, chatting to us about how she manages the whole thing. Now, we're going to be seeing what we can do in terms of keeping you abreast with what's going on. I do believe that we might well have some tweets that we can share with you from people out there. Siafana Zulu Eshowe, Yane, SABC Newsroom. I'm worried about this thing because even my mother has diabetes. Last month, they cut her leg off at hospital. Now we're going to That's just let that sink in for a little bit, how tragic that is, you know, having your mother's leg cut off. I know Elvis is carrying on with the same discussion, and he's standing by to bring you more on the same topic.
So how do you like Mpolo Madao? Hey? Look at her. Beautiful. And she's got diabetes, and she is managing it. Can you do it? Now, good diabetes management is essential to reduce complications. Patients with diabetes need optimum medical care and education to not only improve their diabetic control, but also their overall state of health and quality of health. Center for Diabetes and Endocrinology, CDE, offers a nationwide diabetes disease management program to help people manage diabetes. Now, to talk about the center's disease program, diabetic program rather, we are joined by the head of the Center for Diabetes Endocrinology, Media and Publishing, as well as clinical consultant, Michael Brown. Michael, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Elvis. Thanks for having me on the show.
Mpolo talked about you and your organization. How long have you been doing this now, and is it very successful?
I've personally been working in diabetes for 21 years, and the organization, the CDE, has been going for 22 years as of this month.
23 years.
22.
22 years. Now, that's absolutely incredible. Tell us about your diabetes management program and how you help people to manage their diabetes.
Right, so it's a formal program aimed to help people with diabetes to manage their condition, to look at them as a person first. Because unfortunately, many so-called disease management programs look at the disease or the medical condition without looking at the person. And so we look at the person first.
Yes.
And that person comes with a culture, with emotions, with thoughts, with a social and psychological and financial background. And all of those things are factored into our overall treatment approach. The other very important thing about our program is that we employ a team. So one medical practitioner does not have the range of knowledge and skills to manage the entirety of diabetes.
Yes.
And for that, we use a core diabetes team consisting of a doctor, a registered nurse educator, dietitian, podiatrist, and an ophthalmologist.
That takes quite a lot of people to work with one person.
It does. It does. So managing diabetes is a resource-intensive condition. However, and that comes at a cost, obviously. The cost of not managing diabetes is way more. So studies from Europe show us that about 8% of the treatment of or the cost of diabetes, only about 8% is factored in with the day-to-day treatment. The rest is from complications that are entirely preventable.
What is your reaction and the attitude of people towards your program, and why should people embrace it?
Well, I think just to make the point that we do exist and we do operate within the private sector of healthcare, that is something that's deeply troubling to us in the long term, because we see the greater need of potentially up to 5 million people in this country who have diabetes and don't have access to the kind of care we offer.
Yes.
So we're working very hard on trying to get that right. But essentially at the moment, that's where we work. And
My grandmother used to say nothing in life is for free, so it must come at a cost,
it does
right?
come at a cost,
but
yeah.
what are the cost implications associated with this particular program if people want to go onto it?
Okay. So in terms of the diabetes management program, if you belong to a medical aid that has contracted our services, there's no cost to you. There's no extra cost. You would pay your normal medical aid premium, and you would come and receive all the services. There's no billing. There's no claiming. So all the personal administration around normal private healthcare is gone. And that makes it much easier for people. The cost accrues to the medical fund. And that's where the battle comes, because medical funds have obviously a stewardship role. They are trust funds aimed to take a finite pool of resources and distribute it fairly amongst a huge and expensive population. And so that is really the difficulty that we've faced over the years, is trying to get medical funds to realize the cost of not intervening.
Yes.
And unfortunately...
Because prevention is better than cure.
Oh, absolutely. As I say, more than 80% of the costs of diabetes are attributable to preventable complications. And unfortunately, many funders limit access to our program to their higher options. But an admission for, let's say, a myocardial infarction or heart attack for a higher option patient will cost the same as one on a lower option. And that is an actuarial calculation that we're really trying to get across, and it's proving difficult.
Yeah. Would the proposed national health insurance, the NHI, probably be the answer to get ordinary people to get on a program like yours?
I think intrinsically, yes. I think no one doubts the ethical and financial and whatever need for an NHI. But it depends on how it's implemented. And of course, we're hearing lots of, let's say, political noises, which may be not really what the healthcare system is looking for. But I think if it was instituted in a fair and transparent and open and equitable manner, yes, I think and certainly that's what we are preparing as an organization. We are preparing ourselves in terms of our resources, in terms of our systems to be scalable for that kind of scenario.
Those that don't have medical aid, that cannot afford to get onto the program, what advice would you give to them, and where can they search for help?
Right. So one of my pet sort of projects in diabetes is to try and to get people, or to tell people with diabetes that they should be more proactive and more active from a political, from a community point of view. We saw huge changes in the HIV sector 10 years ago, led by people like Zaki Ahmed, the Treatment Action Campaign. These are people who changed the course of history. Unfortunately, in the diabetes sector, considering that maybe 1 in 10 South Africans have this condition, we're not seeing that level of activism. And so I think that's number one where it has to start. People with diabetes need to start demanding better care.
Now, there's a very controversial doctor in the U.S., like the American doctor Gabriel Cousins. Now, his diabetes recovery program, who claims that his program renders insulin and related medicines unnecessary within 4 days as the blood sugar drops to normal levels, and the diabetic shifts into a non-diabetic physiology within 2 weeks. I've asked that question before. Do you think it's even possible? And what do you make of it?
Look, I think I've had a look at his information around him. I can't really say work because there's no really published scientific work which looks at it in an objective, science-based manner. So what is out there on the internet is a lot of what we call anecdotes, which could be chance, it could be anything else. But certainly there's basis for what he teaches. So eating more raw or whole or unprocessed foods is a great way of reducing pressure on your blood glucose. And we know that. It's not rocket science. We do that every day. We tell our patients the less carbohydrate, and particularly the less refined carbohydrate you eat, the less will be your requirement for medication. If you can lose some weight, you will lessen the requirement for medication. Where the difference comes in is that he claims to cure diabetes. And that, to me, shows probably an intrinsic lack of understanding of the physiology of diabetes. So certainly within 1 or 2 years of developing the condition, it is possibly reversible. We don't know that for sure, but we know we can certainly put it into remission. However, once you've had it for 10 to 15 years, and all the beta cells that produce the blood glucose lowering hormone called insulin, once all those have died off, then it becomes an irreversible condition. And no fad diet will be able to reverse that. So it depends on how early we can intervene. The problem is that type 2 diabetes is largely asymptomatic for the first decade of its existence. And most people at diagnosis have already had it for 7 to 10 years. Therefore, a lot of irreversible damage has accrued. So these are practical difficulties. So there are elements of truth and there are elements of good in what he advises. But certainly the vegan raw food component of what he advises is probably, if you look at most of our population, unsustainable.
In closing, the Department of Health says that we should exercise more and that we should eat healthy and you should go for a test. Would you advise that as well?
I'd say yes, and go for a test if you are high risk. Remember that as the healthcare community, we are stewards of scarce healthcare resources, and to advise the population at large to go for a test is not cost effective. And we could rather use that money in a better fashion. So, how do you know if you're at risk? If you're overweight or obese. If you are sedentary, that means you don't exercise. If you have a previous family history of type 2 diabetes or of premature cardiovascular disease. If you've had gestational diabetes or given birth to a large baby, if you have high blood pressure or high blood cholesterol, those would put you at risk for diabetes, and that type of person would be well advised to go and get checked.
Great. Michael, thank you so much for your time and joining us.
Nice meeting.
That was the head of the Center for Diabetes Endocrinology, Media and Publishing, and a clinical consultant, Michael Brown, here in studio. We'll take a short break. We'll be back right after that with your sports news with Kendall Makamate.
SABC News on point with news around the world. Live transmissions to keep you informed. When history unfolds, we are there.
At which Clinton and her supporters painted an optimistic portrait of America. Statues of the woman who led the march to the Union buildings in Pretoria in 1956 have been unveiled against the walls of the State Theatre in Pretoria. Sophie de Bruyn, Lillian Ngoyi, Helen Joseph and Rahima Musa led 20,000 other women to the Union buildings against the Dom Passers in 1956.
It is for the youth to take the baton that we have already handed over to them.
What has happened to South Africa? Kutheni makhosikazi.
Stay tuned to News Today at 3 p.m. from Monday to Friday on SABC News.
The proceedings of the Fees Commission has once again been disrupted.
We as a university do not feel that fee-free higher education currently is feasible.
This is a Mickey Mouse Commission. During in the commission, student grievances. We're not a part of the commission in the program. So that is why we tend to disturb the program.
If you tell me that I can't leave, then you are keeping me hostage.
Some students demanded that UCT lift the suspensions and expulsions of certain students.
Right, good morning to you. It's been a very busy morning, but we have time to bring you some sporting news. And we start with tennis out at the ATP World Finals. Now, Swiss third seed Stanislav Wawrinka must beat top seed Andy Murray of Britain tomorrow to keep his chances alive of qualifying for the semi-finals of the ATP Tour Finals. Wawrinka defeated Croatian 7th seed Marin Cilic in 2 tight sets in London last night. Meanwhile, Belgium's David Goffin will face 2nd seed Novak Djokovic of Serbia after injured Frenchman Gaël Monfils withdrew. Djokovic has already qualified for the last 4.
Wawrinka is aiming for a 4th successive semi-final spot in London. The US Open champion lost his first match to 5th seed Kei Nishikori of Japan and had to beat Cilic to stay in the mix.
Certainly playing with more authority than he did in his opening match here.
The first set was a battle of will and skill, as both players managed to hold on to their serves throughout. It went all the way to the tiebreak, which Wawrinka finally won after a challenging 55 minutes.
That's a nice little change-up. Very intelligent tennis.
Things were looking up for Cilic early in the second set. He broke the Wawrinka serve in the opening game. But 3 games later, the Swiss broke back to level matters at 2-all.
No, it's brilliant. He's used his slice backhand very intelligently tonight.
Again, the tiebreak decided the outcome, and a gritty Wawrinka finally recorded his first win of the week. Cilic is out. Wawrinka remains alive. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
Now, South Africa's Raven Klaasen and Rajiv Ram of the United States were beaten in straight sets in a superb doubles display from Finland's Henrik Kontinen and John Peers of Australia. They set the ATP World Tour Finals in London. Klaasen and Ram battled valiantly but ended up losing 3-6, 4-6 in their second group stage match. Meanwhile, Andy Murray's dominance continued as he won his second match at the World Tour Finals, beating Kei Nishikori of Japan in a marathon 3 sets.
Andy Murray's reign as world #1 was really put to the test today when he faced up against Japan's 5th-seeded Kei Nishikori.
Oh, that's one of his favourite shots, always has been, and I'm sure it always will be.
The opening set went with serve for the opening 10 games. The 11th, though, saw Nishikori on the brink of breaking the Brit on serve.
Oh, best smash by a long way from Nishikori. And it was the anticipation initially, too, that was superb.
With 2 break points in hand, Kyle rallied on the baseline, trying to break Murray's resolve. But the Scotsman held his nerve. In the following game, Nishikori was the one staring down the barrel as Murray saw himself closing in on taking the set. At 6-3 up in the tiebreaker, Nishikori was in prime position to take it. Or was he?
Oh, what a smash! Can you believe that? What was he thinking?
I mean, 9-all.
So casual with the first smash.
Credit to Murray, he fought back to take a 9-8 lead in the tiebreaker, but then could he make it count? It took an hour and 25 minutes to seal the opening set. Kai Nishikori eventually taking it on his 5th set point.
He should have won that set an awful lot earlier than he did.
The second set was just as pulsating. It took 8 games before someone took the advantage, and Henry Murray walked out in the 10th to level the match at 1 set apiece. It was turning out to be one of the most exciting matches of the season. Both men threw all they had at their opponent.
Oh, that is magical stuff from Nishikori. The athleticism required for Murray to stay on the point was off the charts, but it still wasn't good enough.
Murray, though, would draw first blood 3 break points later to take the lead at 2-1. With the finish line in sight for Murray, all resistance crumbled for Nishikori. There was a mini fight back from the Japanese 5th-ranked player, but it was not to be, as Murray took the match 6-7, 6-4 and 6-4.
It's the first time since 2008 at these championships that Murray has managed to win his first 2 matches in group stages. The battle continues between Murray and Djokovic for the year-end.
Tabiso Sitole, SABC News.
In other news, FIFA's ethics watchdog has handed a 1-year ban to Saud Al-Mohanadi, a high-ranking Qatari and Asian soccer official, for failing to cooperate as a witness with an investigation. This came out on Wednesday. Al-Mohanadi, a vice president of the Asian Football Confederation and Qatar Football Associations, had previously been barred from standing for a place in the FIFA Council while his conduct over the matter was being investigated. Al-Mohanadi has denied any wrongdoing.
Al-Mohanadi's disqualification in September made delegates to call off an extraordinary Asian Football Confederations Congress, which had been called to elect 3 Asian places on the FIFA Council. Those places remain unfilled, and their elections will now take place at the end of February, 1 month after the FIFA Council is expected to make key decisions on the size and format of the World Cup. FIFA's Ethics Committee said the investigation did not concern the 2022 World Cup awarded to Qatar. Al-Mohanadi is said to have infringed 2 articles of the FIFA Code of Ethics. In addition to the 1-year ban, FIFA's Ethics Committee also fined Al-Mohanadi $19,928. Meanwhile, the Real Madrid Foundation and Cuba's National Institute for Sport, Physical Education and Recreation opened a soccer training camp in Havana for Cuban children. The camp will accommodate around 100 children and teachers from 5 primary schools located in the Cuban capital.
During the game, one improves dealing with others, learns to win, learns to lose, has to maintain discipline, respect for colleagues, for the coach. That is where we want to focus on, and for the future. We would like to have many more projects and would advance on that.
The Cuban children were happy to take part in the training session.
It's a great opportunity for us to meet Broder Gueno. We are getting to know him in Real Madrid.
I wanted to play with someone famous who would tell me, "You are the one." This is a unique experience.
The foundation aims to promote football with a clear focus on the role it has to play in the social development of the Cuban population. Mduduzi Ndlovu, SABC News.
That's a feel-good story if there ever was one. Now, the Telkom knockout semi-final fixtures back home have been revealed by the Premier Soccer League. Both Telkom knockout semi-final fixtures will be played on the 26th of November, which is a Saturday. The first semi-final will see Cape Town City host Free State Stars at the Athlone Stadium in Cape Town. That kicks off at 3 p.m. Then at 6 p.m, SuperSport United against the Orlando Pirates at the Mbombela Stadium. The league will communicate all ticketing information in due course. And that is where we're going to leave it for now. Remember those dates and those times. We're going to take a very short and very quick ad break. We'll come back, top of the hour, with more news, more analysis. You're watching Newsroom.
Now, this is Trends, of course, your one-stop serving of all that's juicy and trending in the world of entertainment and showbiz. My name, of course, is Refill Wemwilo.
I'm Dr. Selom Daung, and this is our talk.
A very good morning and welcome to Media Monitor. I'm your host, Alicia Jolly.
My name is Dumila Matters.
William Mulebati.
My name is Mpo. What time is it? It's question time.
For your daily dose of current affairs, tune in to the SABC News Channel.
Yeah, it's more of a validation, you know, it's more of like, okay, you're on it, because it's been a dream and a goal from the beginning, like to get here.
The fact that the rest of the world is actually acknowledging the amount of work we put into, into music as Africa as a whole, I think it's fantastic. It's a big one for South Africa too.
The School of Ballet in Nigeria has changed many a mindset in dance.
Saw it a lot on TV and we looked at it like something that probably could not be taught to us because we thought it was like a white man dance or probably something it's their culture now, but it actually taught me that it's not just about culture because dance is a language.
For more arts and entertainment news, catch Trends every Saturday from 12 to 1.
We are one of the 22 high-burden countries, and out of that we're number 6, following countries like India, China, and with huge population.
Cough, night sweats, weight loss, and fever, and cough being the most important of those. So, and especially if the cough lasts for more than 3 weeks, then you really have to worry and get tested for TB.
The motivation is to affect behavior change, particularly with people who cough and who may be carrying the bacterium. So encouraging people to use their elbow.
For more on health, join your host Dr. Selo Motaung every Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m.
Whether you're looking for a restaurant, public transport, or a university, a lot of us use our smartphone apps to find the closest one. On Network, we chat to those who play a role in Africa's tech space.
We have taken financial services closer to the people. Yeah, mobile penetration is pretty high.
Apple take 30%, keep 70%.
On Network, we give you Africa's social media and technology news. That's Network with Ms. Phumelele Zondi every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time.
As you know, it's the final hour here on the Newsroom on the 17th of November 2016. My name is Elvis Preslin.
I'm Kendall Makamate.
Now, we will be with you until 12 o'clock, but our focus today is on something very, very, very extremely important, and that is diabetes, people living with diabetes. Did you know that about 2.3 million South Africans live with diabetes? So we're asking them a question.
And that question really is about diabetes. And the question is, why is the number of people living with diabetes increasing in South Africa?
You can let us know on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom as well as on our Facebook page. But we're also conducting a poll.
100%. There's a whole lot of important things that we also need to speak about. And that poll is on Parliament being lobbied to extend the powers of the Auditor General. And the question is, should the Auditor General be given more powers to carry out its mandate?
Now, 92 of you have voted thus far, and 93%, Kendall, are saying yes, the Auditor General should be given those powers. I've asked him, and he says it's encouraging to know that that is happening, because if that happens, then he can take more control. 7% of you are saying no. Those are some of the people probably working in the municipalities that has got irregular expenditure. Well, there you go. That's the poll that we have for you. But first, let's take a look at your news headlines. The Justice Minister, Michael Masuta, has told the ICC Assembly that the decision to quit the organization has not been taken lightly, as Russia also announced its withdrawal. The Rhodes Park gang rape and double murder court case resumes today at the High Court sitting in Palm Ridge. And in a bid to restore the South African heritage and pay homage to the fallen liberation struggle icons, the executive mayor of Ekurhuleni, Zwandile Masina, will turn Chris Hani's Boksburg house into a museum. As you can see, there's some of the live visuals coming through with all the people sitting down. And there's our reporter Griselda strolling down the aisle there as well. People are getting ready to hear some of the speeches that will be conducted. We'll probably go there a little bit later to catch up what is happening there. But right now, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sport front.
Thank you very much, Elvis. It's all about Andy Murray, Wawrinka, Kei Nishikori, all out at the ATP World Tour Finals in London. And this is what we've got for you in the sports today. And irresistible Andy Murray bounces back to win a 3-set epic against Kei Nishikori at the ATP World Tour Finals. Game, set, Murray. And in cricket, Australia's chairman of selectors, Rod Marsh, resigns in the wake of the resounding 2-0 series defeat to the Proteas. As FIFA's ethics watchdog hands a one-year ban to Saud Al-Mohanadi, a high-ranking Qatari and Asian soccer official. As you can see, FIFA still trying to clean up house. So I'll bring you all that in more detail. I'll also be trying to bring you a discussion I had with Hank McGregor, 8-time canoe world champion, a little later, 11:35. But for now, it is back to Elvis, who's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Justice Minister Michael Masuta has told the Assembly of State Parties of the ICC that South Africa's decision to withdraw is definitive, as the court has refused to listen to African concerns. The annual meeting of member states has been dominated by South Africa, Burundi and Gambia's decision to pull out.
South Africa's Justice Minister faces his international counterparts after the country announced its intention to pull out of the International Criminal Court, and he's clear there's no going back on the decision.
It's not about South Africa not willing to prosecute clearly guilty parties with regard to human rights violations. We have no intention whatsoever to going down that route. What we're saying is that, however, where international law accords people diplomatic immunity on our soils, that right we will protect.
South Africa won't apologise for inviting Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir to an African Union summit, even though he's under an ICC arrest warrant, and as a court member, South Africa should have detained him. Pretoria says the ICC should allow immunity for sitting presidents. Human rights activists say the whole point of the court is that it can hold the powerful to account, where their domestic justice systems do not.
That message needs to be sent out clearly, that the ICC is a court of last resort that guarantees international justice.
South Africa also says the court focuses disproportionately on African crimes. Defenders of the court, like the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, say the rules are being applied equally to all countries. Russia joined South Africa, Burundi and the Gambia in pulling away from the ICC on Wednesday, saying it won't ratify the Rome Statute. Human rights activists say the court must avoid the temptation to bend the rules of international justice to keep any one country on board. Elena Casas, SABC News in The Hague.
Well, diabetes is a serious condition. We've been talking about this all morning, and it can strike anyone, anywhere, at any age. Diabetes increases the risk of heart disease and stroke. Do you know that? Majority of people, approximately 80% with diabetes, die from heart disease and stroke. Diabetes can also lead to all kinds of complications. It has been estimated that there are about 4 million South Africans with diabetes, but there are many adults who have diabetes, but they don't know their health status because it has not been diagnosed. Figures released by Statistics South Africa in 2012 indicates that at least, listen to this, 58 people die every day from diabetes in South Africa. Now that is more than the 40 people per day that die on our roads. Now, to talk about the dangers of undiagnosed and unattended diabetes, we are joined from our SABC Cape Town studios by Gabriel Eckstein. He's a registered dietitian and a physiologist at the Heart and Stroke Foundation South Africa. Gabriel, very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis. Thank you for having me.
Now, we always hear this, that people refer to diabetes as a silent killer. Why is that?
Yes, similar to hypertension, we refer to it as a silent killer because we think there might be symptoms and signs, but often there's not, which means you have this a silent risk factor that can cause diseases like heart disease, like strokes, without you knowing about it. So it silently increases your risk. And in fact, 1 in 2 people with diabetes don't know they have it. And you can live with diabetes for up to 7 years without showing any signs or any symptoms. So really the emphasis should be on us getting screened for it rather than waiting for those signs and symptoms to appear.
Why is undiagnosed or unattended diabetes much more important than those that actually know their status?
Well, the damage from diabetes starts as soon as you develop the disease, even if you're unaware of it. And when we talk about the damage, it damages your blood vessels and it damages your nerves. And that damage happens from early on. So the longer you live with undiagnosed diabetes, the likely your blood pressure and your blood sugar at least is high the whole time. So you've got all this damage occurring all the time. As soon as we start treatment and we can effectively treat you, then we can, stop that damage from occurring at such a quick rate. Of course, many people that do have diabetes and are on treatment also aren't able to control their sugar levels very well, which means this damage continues. So the sooner we know it's there, the sooner we can treat it, the sooner we can make a difference and avoid the consequences.
How do we turn this tide against the 58 people in South Africa who die of the disease daily? And what are the dangers of diabetes, especially that it is not being attended to, as you just indicated?
Of course, as you mentioned on the introduction, there's lots of complications. And in fact, most people with diabetes will eventually or ultimately develop cardiovascular disease, which means strokes, heart attacks, and peripheral vascular disease. The other consequences we see kidney disease, impaired vision, poor wound healing, nerve damage. So it really puts a vast strain on our healthcare system. So it's so important that we do make a difference to it. How do we prevent it? How do we make a difference to this? Firstly, we have to look at the obesity crisis. Obesity and diabetes, these two surges of increased prevalence we see in South Africa go hand in hand. So we can't address preventing diabetes if we don't look at obesity. But then secondly, as you say, we need to diagnose people correctly. So we can start them on treatment. And then people that are already on treatment, we need to make sure that they get the appropriate medical care so we can actually control this disease, because it is a controllable disease. You can live with it for a very, very long time without it causing heart diseases and strokes if we can help you to do that correctly.
Daniel, Gabriel, I thank you so much for your time and joining us. Unfortunately, we need to go to a live event right now, but thank you so much for joining us in our Cape Town studios. That was Gabriel Eckstein. He's a registered dietitian and a physiologist at the Heart and Stroke Foundation, South Africa. Let's now go live to the house of Chris Hani, where his wife, Dimpo Hani, is currently speaking.
You're not here. It is beautiful. I know there is a room for improvement because this is just what's the word now? Launching the whole project. I just want to divert a bit from this museum. In today's Star, page 1, I read that there is a documentary, part 3, whatever, about my husband. I don't know the people who are doing the documentary about my husband. They have not talked to the ANC, they have not talked to the SACP, they have not talked to me. But what I find very strange and extremely offensive, if you read that story, there is no story. But what has offended me is the name of our former president, Thabo Mbeki, is mentioned there. You read that story, they claim, the story doesn't make sense. And I appeal to the editor of the Star not to sell his papers by throwing our leaders' names in vain. We should take an exception. And I think as ANC members, we have to take the Star on, the editor. Remember those guys who have written the story. It's the editor who has the final say. As an editor of a newspaper, how do you come up with a story like that? The paper itself says Debbie Lewis did say Comrade was not involved. But the editor allows that story where there is insinuations that former President Thabo Mbeki was involved in killing my husband. I want to say to South Africans and the Star editor, you have information about people who killed my husband, don't use the newspaper, go to the police, go to the Hawks, go wherever. But you are not going to use our leader's name in vain. Comrades, the enemy of the ANC is at work. And it's for us to defend our organization. And we should not allow, it doesn't matter when, how, who, for our leaders' names to be used in vain. Amandla. Going back to the museum, I would like to say, I thank all of you and the comrades who have made time to be here. This is the most beautiful thing. Comrade Mayor, I wish you can share the notes of this museum. I would like to see, this is my wish, I would like to see all the provinces, all the municipalities in the country celebrating their heroes the way you have done. I think we should share notes as a country, as ANC. I thank you all. Amandla!
Thank you, Mam Dimpo. By the way, Chris Hani stood for 3H. The first one was health, the second one was hunger, the third one was housing. The executive mayor of Ekurhuleni has actually indicated to us that he wants to actually make sure that all the programs that Chris Hani stood for are actually enhanced and are actually implemented. Without any waste of time, I'm going to request the executive mayor of Ekurhuleni, Councillor Mzwandile Masina, to come forward and give us an address. Thank you. Over to you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Program Director, Dr. Imogen Mashazi, the Acting City Manager in the city of Ekurhuleni. Let me take this opportunity to greet the Hani family, our mother, Mam Dimpo. She's forever with us on the ground. When she calls, she fights, we always at peace with each other. Let me also take this opportunity to greet former Mayor Dumangosi, the former Mayor Ndombi Mihwe, I have received an apology from former Mayor Mondli Gongobele. He's in Cape Town. He didn't snap the event. He's always here. And I'm certain as we progress, he will be here. I want to also greet the leadership of the SACP, the leadership of the African National Congress in all its manifestations, the councillors that are here with us, the members of the mayoral committee that are here, almost all of them are here today with us. Thank you very much for honoring this very important occasion in the city of Ekurhuleni. Many of you will recall that in my acceptance speech after the local government elections on the 3rd of August, I announced a program which we call the 100 Days in Office, which is ending on the 29th of May this month. A lot has happened. We'll share with the people of Ekurhuleni, we'll share with the people of South Africa, and we hope that this is going to be a story of hope, a story of confirmation that only the African National Congress throughout the country has sound policies and programs that can extricate our people from poverty, inequality, and that continues to persist. Amongst the programs that we announced, Mam Dimpohani, which I discussed extensively with yourself, and you said, my son, that is not possible. Many have tried. We said we're going to buy the house. The house has been bought. It has been transferred to our name. As we're buying the house, we ask ourselves, why are we buying this house? What do we want to do? We immediately then directed our officials to apply to the South African Heritage Resource Agency to declare this house a heritage house. I will be handing to you a letter. The house has since been declared a heritage. So these two things that I'm mentioning are important for us to know that we will now be able to go ahead, as we have tried with the mock museum. We want to appeal to you, Mam Dimpo, and the entire family across the length and breadth and elsewhere where Comrade Chris was, to help us reconnect and bring the life of Chris into reality. As we tour with you the house, we would want to know the original features of the house, things that must be removed, things that must be redone in order for us to have the same house that we have. We hope you will also be generous enough to donate to the city some of the important memorabilia that might be in your position or the position of the family that will make it interesting for the people to see the life of Comrade Chris. When many of us came here, I was 19 years old when Comrade Chris was killed. We marched from Katlehong. We came here, we found the leader lying in a pool of blood. That memory still lives with us. I'm happy today to be presiding over this important occasion to restore that history that has not been properly told here in South Africa. I want to say that the African National Congress has fought and brought about freedom and democracy in South Africa. When it did so, we fought fearlessly from generations to generations against apartheid. And we were clear, we went to the length and breadth of our country and we explained to the people of South Africa how bad apartheid was to humankind. Presented to them the alternative, which was a democratic South Africa, which we ushered in 1994 through, amongst others, the sad passing of Comrade Chris. And we still want the truth. Lies can be told, names of our leaders can be mentioned, as Mam Dimpo says. We are not convinced. We want the real truth. We still believe the truth will come. Now, why it is important for us to know where we come from is that in South Africa today, we have a number of NGOs, number of churches, a number of CEOs who are calling for regime change. We're a democracy. We've just came back from the elections in 2014. The ANC won overwhelmingly 62% of the majority. They voted for the African National Congress. Those who are saying to us now they want change, they are yet to tell the people of South Africa, change from democracy to what? And many of us can have our own suspicions what is likely to come. The importance of this is that South Africans must be careful, because we have seen and learned from some of the neighboring countries in Tunisia, where people went on the rampage, looked for change. The sum results is that they have 3 sitting governments. They don't know which rule to apply, when and how. The people of Egypt did the same. They went for the Arab Spring through social media. Other seasons have not arrived. Government is in chaos. So is the people of Libya and so on. Life, the story can go on and on. The fact is, if you want to change that which is working, you must provide an alternative. We dare challenge the opposition and all those who have sought to gang against the African National Congress to tell the people of South Africa, if you want to replace democracy, what are you going to replace it with? Is it in the best interest of our citizens, yes or no? And I doubt that they will be able to tell us why do they want to remove a democratically elected government that enjoys the will of the people. Now, coming back to this particular facility, we are going to undergo a number of developments in the area. We have been brainstorming with our teams. The first thing that we will do is to recreate the museum so that we can relive the life of Chris Hani. The second thing that we want to do, we want to build a narrative center in the vicinity here. And the third thing that we want to do, we have also secured about 20 million rand to build a library where the story of Chris is going to be told in this area. We have committed to build a statue of almost of the same size that you can find there in Nelson Mandela Square of Chris, so that his legacy can never be forgotten. We are now working tirelessly to link this facility with the park just down the road, recreate the park so that we can create pathways that will lead us to the gravesite. We hope that these developments in sum total will inspire the people of this area to think about business opportunities that can arise, because we've seen how Vilakazi Street have developed. It is possible that we can have it here in our own area. The important thing is that we want the life and legacy of Comrade Chris to be relived. Mamdimpo, we have taken a decision as a mayoral committee. It is going to go to council, I'm hopeful by the end of this month, to honor you with the freedom of the city, as we've done with Comrade Chris Hani. You remain an icon. You remain an icon. We are inspired. Women who are fearless, resistant, always supportive. You have not lived in the shadow of the name of your husband. You are the hero in your own right. Your contribution to the struggle and the people of South Africa can never go unnoticed. We love you, Mama. Just know that all that what we do, we try and do our best using the instrument of the states to make sure that our leaders who brought us freedom and democracy are not easily forgotten in our area. We are proud of the work that was done by our predecessors, Comrade Mondli Kungubele, Comrade Ntombi Mihwe, Comrade Dumankosi, Comrade Bavumile Vilakazi, amongst others, who have ensured that they keep us in check in terms of ensuring that we don't forget where we come from. We will continue to honor many men and women who have made a contribution to our city. As I move towards the conclusion, I want to say that in the 100 days in office, we committed to the people of Ekurhuleni that we will deliver about 280 houses. We have far surpassed that number. Our people have been given dignity because of the legacy of Chris Hani. We have delivered over 500 title deeds to the people of Thokoza, the people of Etwatwa, and the people of Kempton Park, because we wanted to give back dignity to our people. We have built over 20 kilometers of road over the past 100 days, for the people of Ekurhuleni because we wanted to give them their dignity back. We have increased the bursaries from just 10 million since we took over office to about 100 million so that a black child can go to school and make sure that we recreate another Chris Hani and the generation that brought us freedom. All those that are opposed to us, the African National Congress, is because we have started to speak about the things that they so dearly possess. We want to talk about land. We want to talk about economic transfer, not transformation, because transformation has failed. We want to talk about economic transfer to the majority of our people because even today, poverty, unemployment, and inequality continue to persist, and the people at the receiving end is the majority of our people, the Africans, who are now being hoodwinked to believe that ANC is not good enough to deliver these things. If we allow the enemy of the revolution to do that and dictate to us, we will not be able to deliver these things. We've proven to them with democracy, we can still prove with land, we can still prove with economic transfer so that our people live free in harmony. And as a city, we are committed to make sure that we invest in this particular facility, which would want to invite all of you to tour and see just a few work that we've been able to do after we received the keys officially, because we had to make sure that at least we don't just call you and invite you to an empty house. We are thankful to Mama, we're thankful to the family and the children, we're thankful to the city, we're thankful to all the parties in council who continues to give us support to be able to do these things, because on our own we'll be unable to do these things. We have committed to make sure that the city is stable, the city delivers. These are the things that keeps us going every night. Just this morning, 7 o'clock with the team, we're working to receive feedback about the program that we call Siyakuba Friday, which we take to different communities, working together with councillors, MMCs, senior officials, and contractors. We followed by launching today the Ekurhuleni Business Council, where we brought together over 40 different associations so that they can speak in one voice as we begin the program of economic transfer using some of the resources that we have at the level of the state. Just now, Mamdimpo, we just came from Vosloorus, where we unveiled an 8 million rand park for the community of Ward 64. It's beautiful. We've urged them to take care of the facility. We are here. We'll conclude our day today by launching about 100 Vugupile program, a program that we create for contractors where we've ring-fenced about 500 million rand and train people that they can deliver some of the things that we do, because we are committed to change the lives of our people. We want to appeal to the African National Congress, to the SACP, to work with us to rebuild the memory of Chris, to make sure that we are kept in check so that we can deliver this facility. And I'm sure when you come here after a year, Mamdimpo and the team, this facility would have changed. Thank you very much to the people of Ekurhuleni. Siyabonga. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor. The Mayor, another age, you have increased the access to health care by opening 3 clinics in this 100-day program. Also, in terms of poverty alleviation, the Mayor has just mentioned the Vugupile program of about 500 million, wherein our people are going to be better placed in terms of economic development. Without any waste of time, I'm going to request the Executive Mayor of Ekurhuleni, Councillor Mzwadile Masina, to come forward, and also ask the MMC responsible for infrastructure, Councillor Robert Mashihu, to come forward, and Madim Pohani to come forward to hand over the title deed to the house and also the key to the house to ensure that what we said and what the Mayor said, that he is taking occupation of the house today, the reality has actually come. Can I request that Mama Mpo, can you come forward? And Councillor Mashihu will hand over with you the title deed and the key to the Executive Mayor.
Good morning. Thank you very much, MC. This is a legal document. is not a made-up document. It's a title deed from buyer, dyers, attorneys, and conveyors. It is written the following: deed of transfer. Transfer of earth number 1310 Don Park Extension 23 Township from Tswaledi Johannes Pala and Elizabeth Dinawo Mudirwadi Pala and Kilewuhile Mampo Mohafe to Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Municipality. This is an official document. You can see it's very official. It is in actual fact finalized and signed on the 29th of September 2016. This is the keys of the house. And this is the title deed.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So I can lock the municipality out ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Executive Mayor. We're now moving forward with our program. I'm going to request the MMC responsible for this department. She's MMC responsible for community services. That includes SHREC, sports, culture and heritage, and also health and social development. Her name is Councillor Doram Lambo. Councillor, can you come forward and give us the vote of thanks? And after this program, we are going to view the house. But you know that the entrance to the house is very small. I'm going to request that the Executive Mayor of Ekurhuleni, the Speaker, the former Mayor of Ekurhuleni, Ntombi Mekwe, the former Mayor of Ekurhuleni, Tate Dumankosi, the Ward Councillor, Medim Pohani, and MMCs should actually join the Executive Mayor when he goes in to view the house. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Program Director. First of all, let me thank our Executive Mayor, Councillor Mzwandile Masina, who always share ideas with us how to improve our service delivery for Ekurhuleni residents. Secondly, I'd like to thank Umamudi Mpo, who always embrace us when we invited Mama Siabong. And then again, let me thank our sister department, Department of Real Estate, who makes sure that the house has been bought under the leadership of MMC, Masheku Siabonga MMC. And then again, let me thank the MMCs who are here. I know it's been a long day, MMCs, but thank you very much to come to this event. Let me thank you again, our ex-mayor, Siabongama, to come here, and then our ex-mayor again, Babu Dumankosi. Thank you very much. I know every time when we've got events, we are part of us. Thank you, Siabong. Don't forget.
Now, that is the event happening at the house of the late liberation struggle icon, Chris Hani, the house is being officially turned into a museum today. Now, this follows the decision by the Ekurhuleni Council meeting in Germiston to turn the house into a museum. Long overdue, some would say. Let's now take a break, and we'll be right back after that.
Roots and poverty did not deter Mpumi's success.
Being an orphan or coming from poverty or having seen what HIV and AIDS does to a person that you love takes nothing away from you. It means that you are part of a selective few who have had to face a very, very marginalized struggle.
Abuse is a lonely journey that needs compassion.
I came across as a very confident, ambitious person, but behind that mask was somebody who had serious anxiety problems, a person who had knots in their stomach continuously, a person who could be in company and would feel very lonely.
Being away from his birth country did not stop his hunger to succeed.
Boxing was the way out. Turning professional would give me an income. That was the solution to the problems I've had for so many years.
For more inspiring stories, join Bupulong every Friday at 17:30.
The time is hit just after 25 to 12. I'm Kendall Makamaten. Guess what? I've got your sports for today. FIFA's ethics watchdog has handed a one-year ban to Saud Al-Mohanadi, a high-ranking Qatari and Asian soccer official, for failing to cooperate as a witness with an investigation. Al-Mohanadi, a vice president of the Asian Football Confederation and Qatar Football Association, had previously been barred from standing for a place on the FIFA Council. This while his conduct over the matter was being investigated. Al-Mohanadi has, of course, denied any wrongdoing.
Al-Mohanadi's disqualification in September made delegates to call off an extraordinary Asian Football Confederation's Congress, which had been called to elect 3 Asian places on the FIFA Council. Those places remain unfilled and the elections will now take place at the end of February, 1 month after the FIFA Council is expected to make key decisions on the size and format of the World Cup. FIFA's Ethics Committee said the investigation did not concern the 2022 World Cup awarded to Qatar. Al-Mohanadi is said to have infringed 2 articles of the FIFA Code of Ethics. In addition to the 1-year ban, FIFA's Ethics Committee also fined Al-Mohanadi $19,928. Meanwhile, the Real Madrid Foundation and Cuba's National Institute for Sport, Physical Education and Recreation opened a soccer training camp in Havana for Cuban children. The camp will accommodate around 100 children and teachers from 5 primary schools located in the Cuban capital.
During the game, one improves dealing with others, learns to win, learns to lose, has to maintain discipline, respect for colleagues, for the coach. That is where we want to focus on, and for the future. We would like to have many more projects and would advance on that.
The Cuban children were happy to take part in the training session.
It's a great opportunity for us to meet Brother Gueno. We are getting to know him in Real Madrid.
I wanted to play with someone famous who would tell me, "You are the one." This is a unique experience.
The foundation aims to promote football with a clear focus on the role it has to play in the social development of the Cuban population. Mduduzi Ndlovu, SABC News.
Now to tennis, where Swiss third seed Stanislav Wawrinka must beat top seed Andy Murray of Britain tomorrow to keep his chances alive of qualifying for the semi-finals of the ATP Tour Finals. Wawrinka defeated Croatian 7th seed Marin Cilic in 2 tight sets in London last night. Meanwhile, Belgium's David Goffin will face 2nd seed Novak Djokovic of Serbia after injured Frenchman Gaël Monfils withdrew. Djokovic has already qualified for the last 4.
Wawrinka is aiming for a 4th successive semi-final spot in London. The US Open champion lost his first match to 5th seed Kei Nishikori of Japan and had to beat Cilic to stay in the mix.
Certainly playing with more authority than he did in his opening match here.
The first set was a battle of will and skill, as both players managed to hold on to their serves throughout. It went all the way to the tiebreak, which Wawrinka finally won after a challenging 55 minutes.
That's a nice little change-up. Very intelligent tennis.
Things were looking up for Cilic early in the second set. He broke the Wawrinka serve in the opening game. But 3 games later, the Swiss broke back to level matters at 2-all.
No, it's brilliant. He's used his slice backhand very intelligently tonight.
Again, the tiebreak decided the outcome, and a gritty Wawrinka finally recorded his first win of the week. Cilic is out. Wawrinka remains alive. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
And so last night, I had the pleasure of speaking to a true giant of his sport. He's won everything in South Africa and is a household name in the international canoeing world. He's a multiple, in fact, 8-time World Canoe Marathon champion, Hank McGregor. He joined us from our Durban studios last night.
I got more than one discipline that I participate in the paddling, paddling sports. I do a lot of ocean racing, which takes me around the world. To some of the most exotic places, and some of the big races clash with the canoeing sort of calendar. So I decided to maybe give a break from canoeing this season and maybe focus on more of the ocean racing and try and win the World Surf Ski Series. And maybe if I could, maybe I could participate in our national trial, which is normally the same week or the weekend after one of the biggest surf ski races in Hawaii. So I decided to maybe give paddling a miss, canoeing a miss, but fortunately I came back in time and I managed to win the national title and get me a slot in the national team to go to World Champs this year.
All right, very interesting. Now, canoeing is not one of the high-profile sports that are recognized in the South African sports scene. I can imagine it must be quite a challenge and possibly even a drain on your personal pocket. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the financial challenges you face as a canoeist and how you manage those?
Yeah, look, it's not the cheapest sport in the world for sure. And like you say, it's not the biggest profile sport in our country. And, sponsors are few and far between to find, and I'm fortunate enough I've been sponsored financially by 1 or 2 companies, and they help me travel the world and also get to some of the places where, necessarily it's not profiled back home, but on an international scene it's quite well recognized. So yeah, it's quite tough, and obviously to try and transport your boats around the world it's not the easiest object. Some of them are 6.5 meters long, like a surf ski, and canoes like 5.5 meters long. So you can't just put it in your hand luggage and take it on the plane. So, you've got to prep quite a long time in advance, especially if you're traveling to Europe or some places like Hawaii or Tahiti or Mauritius, So, yeah, big thanks to my sponsors for all their support to get me around the world.
Another figure that's been quite key in your career is your dad. From what I believe, you and your dad have had 1 or 2 important and crucial bonding moments. One of them being when you were on his yacht sailing to the Caribbean. Can you tell us a little bit about what went on there?
Yeah, look, my dad and I have had a great connection. It's always been tough being my father and my coach at the same time. There was always that point where there was you didn't really know if you're listening to the coach or your father, if he was disappointed or excited with your result. But at the end of the day, he's always going to be my dad, and he'll always be my coach. And we've brought back 8 world titles now to South Africa in canoeing, and enough surf ski race titles from around the world. So we've had a great bond, and he's encouraging the new youth of today to obviously achieve what I've achieved and maybe better what I've got. So, my dad and I always have that bond, and it's always been special.
Yeah, now something definitely to nurture and also for us to celebrate. You know, a father who's a coach who's actually helping his son to get to the point where he brings back 8 world titles. There's something else I heard about. There was that you're sailing from Durban to the United States, and you had an interesting challenge in Luderitz off the Namibian coast, right? Can you share that with our viewers?
Yeah, for sure. We set sail from Cape Town, my father and my mother, and my dad thought the wind was going to help us get to the Caribbean. So the stronger the wind, the faster we would get there. Unfortunately, the surf got a bit too big, and we flipped the boat about 400 miles across the on our way to the Caribbean. So it was a scary 72 hours of bailing water, and it was a survival moment for our family, and we managed to survive. And like the sayings, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I guess and from there on, I've managed to survive the oceans and also win.
When's the movie coming out?
We'll see. We'll see. We had some footage of us and ships disappearing around us when that storm was out there, and
wow.
It wasn't the best of scenes, but I'll never forget them. And I must admit, when I paddle in the ocean today, I appreciate every opportunity that I have.
No, certainly amazing story that. I mean, and I'm sure that's only just one of the thousands of stories you could share with different people had they the time. Before we close off, I just want to ask you about that victory in Sweden at the World Champs in 1996. Share with us.
Yeah, look, that was my first world title. It was the first junior world title for South Africa in men's, and I remember leaving South Africa, and my father still gave me a bit of an ultimatum, said, if you don't win and you don't break away, when you get back to South Africa, I'll sell every boat and that you have, and you'll go to varsity like a normal kid, and the rest is up to you. So anyway, I managed to fortunately break away and won by a couple of minutes. Wow. And brought back South Africa's first junior gold medal. And I guess I've never looked back since then. I realized that I was capable of some special things. And I guess now 8 world senior titles, all my dreams came true.
There you have it. Great chat that I had there with Hank McGregor, 8-time canoe marathon gold medalist and multiple surf ski world champion as well. Now, the ICC is until Sunday, this coming Sunday, to formally charge Proteas stand-in captain Faf du Plessis after footage emerged showing him shining the ball with a mint in his mouth during Australia's second innings, which has somewhat tainted the historic victory that the Proteas had this last week.
Law 42.3 of the MCC's Laws of Cricket states that a fielder may polish the ball provided that no artificial substance is used. The incident occurred during the 54th over of the innings when the hosts were on 150 for the loss of 5 wickets, still trailing South Africa's first innings total by 91. Peter Neville edged the very next delivery to JP Duomini in the gully after bowling off Rabada. Du Plessis also received a warning during the first test for deliberately bouncing the ball along the ground to rough it up. And in 2013, he pleaded guilty to ball tampering and was fined 50% of his match fee during the second test against Pakistan for rubbing the ball on his trouser zipper. Samantha Mari, SABC News.
Meanwhile, the hosts are battling to deal with the crisis the cricket now finds itself in. Rod Marsh resigned as Australia's chairman of selectors in the wake of the Test team's 2-0 series loss. The former Test wicketkeeper announced a month ago that he would step down in mid-2017, but as the fallout from Australia's 5th successive Test defeat continued, he said he'd vacate the role immediately. Trevor Holmes has been appointed Australia's interim chairman of selectors, with Greg Chappell drafted in to help the national team in crisis. The experienced Holmes, who previously served as chief selector during a hugely successful period for Australia, currently sits on the four-man selection panel along with Mark Waugh, coach Darren Lehman, and now Chappelle. And that's where we leave it with the sport. In fact, that's where we leave it with Newsroom for today. We'll be back tomorrow morning with the same crew. We do believe we'll be full house, so all three of us here. You've been watching Newsroom. I'll be back here 9 o'clock sharp for more news, more analysis, and more sports. Until then, let's